Good evening. Sorry for the delay. I had some technical problems, but I'm here now. I hope you can all hear me very well. Hi Verti. Hi QA Library. Hello again. Welcome back to the stream. Luby Lou, welcome. I hope you're well. I hope everyone is safe. So we're at 7 viewers so far. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Hi David. I hope you're well. So unfortunately I couldn't do a live stream on Tuesday, so it's been a week since I've done a live stream, and I'm missing the live stream. I've been waiting for a long time. Cotton Cat, welcome. Marilena, welcome. Riallo Bran, welcome. Jimbo, welcome. Jimbo, great. Ewan, welcome. Mark, I hope you're well. Loud and clear, that's great. Monkey, welcome. Mark, Ify, welcome. Max and things working correctly. Never have guessed stuff working correctly. Pauline, welcome. That's great. I hope everyone's fine. That logo looked like James the Band one. Which logo? New Gerbils, yes. Briss, welcome. Brexit Central, welcome. Killer, great to see you again. Hi Herbie, hi Glenn. Chris, welcome. Thought I'd get in early. Great to see you, Killer. So I'll just wait for some more to come on the stream. Did you feed the hamster? Yes, I gave the hamster some steroids. So hopefully he will survive the night. Glasgow, welcome. Calendars. No calendars. No. Please stop with the calendars. So I hope everyone is fine. So first of all, we're going to look at what you guys had actually requested. Some of the comments you had asked on the community page. So once again, apologies for last Tuesday. I wasn't able to do the live stream, but we're here tonight, and that's important. So as usual, I'll jump between what I'm going to share on the stream and your comments as always. Glenn B, welcome. Hope you're fine. Glad to see you also on Discord. Temps, welcome. Elidio, welcome. Wee Scott's dog, great to see you again. I am the hamster on the treadmill then. Never stop with the calendars, never. The calendars. JPEG Duff, welcome. Your PC is quieter than usual. I don't know why that's the case. So Verti says he's I'm very well prepared. Got some beer, cigarettes, barbecue, candy, and popcorn. I hope you won't need to go to the hospital. I've been eating a lot under lockdown. I've been eating a lot more than I should be. Some people are learning yoga, doing exercises every day. Instead, I'm eating and drinking too much. Ready for bingo tonight. I love this. So I found this, I think it was on Facebook. I found this. It's fantastic. So it's the left and right wing conspiracy, coronavirus conspiracy. And there's a lot there. Some of them I'm not all that familiar with. For example, this QAnon. I've heard something about it, but I have no understanding what it's about. Lenny Harry, welcome. Hope you're fine. And then Bill Gates. I was saying to someone, Bill Gates has replaced George Soros for conspiracy theorist nuts. Alcohol impairs your immune response. Meister, welcome. Magister, welcome. Okay, let's have a look at the first question. First here we have, by the way, the north of Brazil, the health system already collapsed. Yeah, I think Brazil is going to be the next epicenter after the United States. It seems the virus is moving from one, we're dealing with it one country or one region or one landmass at a time. Like it started off in China, of course, and then it moved to Europe. Europe became the epicenter, then the United States, then the United States became the epicenter, then it moved, it's been moving around the world, but I think Brazil and perhaps India are the places to watch. So in Brazil, it's going to be disastrous because of the favelas. So you have these shanty towns, and it has already entered some of the favelas in Rio. And I think it's going to cause a huge amount of damage there. Cotton Cat says, sorry Max, I won't be able to participate a lot. I'm following a Twitch stream on space videos. Wow, well, that sounds cool. But I'll leave the stream open for the number of viewers. That's great. So if you can pop in from time to time, please do. BBC had 103 complaints that they were biased towards mass immunization after a segment with Bill Gates. Everyone take your vitamin D as Dr. John Campbell's advice. But don't you get vitamin D? Yeah, you get your vitamin D from the sun. They're beating Gates with that guy. When that guy donates hundreds of millions every year to fight against viruses, he created the Windows, so he knows everything about viruses. I use Macs. Yeah, Windows is terrible. I have a Windows PC, but sometime in the future I'd like to get a Mac instead, because I have a friend who has a Mac. He bought it 10 years ago, and I don't know if you guys have Macs, but he bought it 10 years ago. He showed it to me. He opened it, and it's like the first day. It's not slow or anything like that. While Windows PCs, you buy a high-spec one this year, and next year it's really, really slow. You have to format it and wipe the memory and reinstall Windows in order to have it working, at full speed again. Gradually gets slower and slower. To answer your question about sub count, when you on YouTube naughty step, Google might not share around your videos. Less watch and no extra subs. Thanks for that, QA. Probably, yeah. Once they get knocked off, it'll take a while for me to get the subs back again. But it hasn't been always like that, but this time it's been pretty bad. Thank you, Glasgow Kiss. Yes, if you'd like to support me on Patreon, that'd be fantastic. Of course, if you can. Just install Ubuntu, and your PC will stay fresh for 10 years. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ubuntu, but a lot of the software, I had some problems with printers in the past with Ubuntu. So I had installed Ubuntu on a computer, but I had problems getting drivers for some printers. But I may do it again. It's probably the best operating system. That or Apple software. Now this news have an interesting video called San Francisco paid the price for lifting Spanish flu lockdown early. History repeating. Yeah. So what's happening in the United States now is that many states are planning to. Yes, the super chat has made a return. So if you want to ask a question, that'll get a priority. Thank you very much, Glasgow Kiss. So if anyone wants to hit me with a super chat, that'd be great. In the United States, they've decided to reopen some of the states, and of course it's going to increase the risk of a second wave. But I feel Donald Trump doesn't care about this because he just wants to get the economy going again. Lots of cookies, welcome. He just wants the economy going again so that his donors are satisfied. And of course, his donors live in gated communities and have access to whatever healthcare they need and tests probably, so that they are able to protect themselves. But their workers are not able to protect themselves. So they want their workers to return to work in order for them to maintain their profit levels. Hi Ian Donald, welcome. 32 states, I hear. Super Saint. You have the scientific evidence saying you need to lock down, and you have the president and other politicians saying, no, we need to open up as soon as possible. Hit the like button, yes. It helps the stream. Gives Max that warm, fuzzy feeling. Montana is doing a phased reopening this week. So here in Italy, Mark, if he says, what's happening? What's going to happen with that different bias? Maximilian Jiu-Jitsu live stream talk. I haven't been able to speak to a different bias, but I'm going to try and reach out to him to see if he'd be interested in doing a live stream. So I was looking at doing a live stream with someone using Skype. So it'd be interesting for you guys also for me to interview someone or to have a chat at least with someone on the live stream. So as far as I know, I can do a Skype call and I can share it on the live stream. So that'd be nice to see, I think. Something a bit more interesting. Why are USA news reporters so deference? Andrew. In what way do you mean that? Can you give me an example? Max, when is the Italian lockdown easing up? So on the 4th of May, so next Monday, we'll be able to finally visit relatives and family members, but none in a way. So let me explain better. So we can at the moment family members who are living in another province or in another commune, you can't visit them. So you have to stay within your commune. The only time you can go outside your commune is if you need to go to the doctor, or if you need to go to the hospital, or if you need to do particular shopping, for example. That's the only reason. Or if you work, of course, outside the region. Not the region, the commune. So in Italy, we have hundreds of communes. They're inside provinces, and then the provinces are inside regions, and then the regions are inside Italy. So there are many layers. For me, my wife's parents live in another province and another commune, obviously. So it's a problem for us to visit them. So we haven't seen them in a month and a half, more or less. And on Monday, so on the 4th of May, we're able to go and visit them. So we're able to travel outside the province, outside the commune and outside the province. So they still live in the same region, which is Veneto, that we live in. So we're able to visit them. Now they're talking about opening also small shops and what else? Supermarkets already open. Many shops are able to open from the 4th of May, but if they are under 40 square meters, only one person at a time can come in. If they're more than 40 square meters in dimension, 2 people can enter at a time. So they're limiting. So we are opening up a bit, but we are limiting the numbers of people who can enter. You have to walk around with a mask on, and if you enter a shop or some sort of business, you have to wear gloves. There has been talk about, for example, clothes shops. So clothes shops will have to sanitize any clothes that people try on. So, if you go into a clothes shop and you say, like, I'd like to try on that t-shirt or jumper or whatever, they have to sanitize that. Now, will they sanitize it if nobody is looking or if no one is around? I don't know. But according to the law, they have to sanitize everything that's touched. So it's opening up quite a bit. We're still restricted from moving outside the province, outside the region. Sorry. So that's still a bit of a problem, because we'd like to, for example, my wife and I would like to go walking in the mountains, and there's a particular part of the mountains we like to go to, which is in another region, which is in the Trentino Alto Adige region, which is a very, very beautiful place. But it's in another region, so we can't go there yet. So we're waiting until, I think, maybe the 18th of May, and then we're able to go outside the region. But it's still up in the air at the moment. Anyway, so I'll go back to the chat for a moment. Max costs €1 a day, so it's a cup of coffee. If you can afford that, you should be able to buy a Mac. €1 a day, it's more than there's 365 days in the year, so how many years are you talking about? My last laptop lasted 7 years. This one is 6 years old. I installed Linux on both from day one. Fine for me. Yeah, I think I'm really going to consider going back to Ubuntu. I used it some years ago, and I was really happy. The only problem I had was with the with drivers, sometimes with the printer drivers. So, but I think you can install Microsoft Office on it, or because I know there is OpenOffice, but OpenOffice I wasn't very happy with, because it didn't work. It didn't open some Excel files, for example. I was in Milan on October 19th, last holiday. I had and only for a weekend, as we didn't have enough time to stay longer. Then this nightmare happened. I promised Italy would be my first holiday after COVID. Well, I hope I hope it is, and I hope you have a good time. Lots of cookies. Both Toshiba. Fabrice and Go. Millions of children risk missing life-saving vaccines, the UN has warned. Yeah, that's so there are many vaccines, for example, polio and maybe it was smallpox, but I'm sure I forget. Maybe it wasn't smallpox, but certainly polio, and of course there's a risk that cholera is going to explode in some countries in Africa. So that while they were maintaining some level of control over cholera, it's looking likely to come back with a vengeance. And there was another disease also, tuberculosis. So tuberculosis, which has been pretty much eradicated in the West, it's still a huge issue in countries like in some African countries. So because the WHO is dealing with coronavirus at the moment, those other illnesses which haven't gone away are being neglected, and it's going to kill millions perhaps. We're so focused on coronavirus, we're forgetting about everything else, and unfortunately for many countries they're going to see their health systems collapse completely. I really hope that we in the West help them out, because we have a moral duty to do that. The European Parliament building in Brussels is housing 100 homeless women, many of them victims of domestic abuse, who have been seriously affected by Belgium's coronavirus. That's great news, QA Library. We should tell the Brexiteers about that. It's only at 100. I imagine there are many more cases, but 100 is better than nothing. So I applaud them for that. Some part of Africa, health is getting better due to people can safely wash hands. That's good. Belfast, welcome. Night Raven, welcome. Great to see you back again. Sorry to be late. Don't worry, no problem. We're here for a while. Max, what do you think about enforced vaccines from Paulie? It's a tricky question. So I generally believe that we shouldn't be forced to do things by the state, but we are forced to do certain things by the state. If you want to drive a car, you need to have a license. There are certain requirements. If you want to work in the police, you need to satisfy certain requirements. If you want to adopt children, if you can't have children, you need to reach certain requirements. You need to respect certain requirements. But enforced vaccines. Well, I think some vaccines are already enforced. For example, MMR jab is enforced. I understand the fears around this coronavirus vaccine that many people fear because it's something new that we don't know the effects, the negative effects we could get, the collateral damage it could do to the body if it's so we don't know so much about it. But I think if it's proven to work, then we should accept the vaccine. Should it be enforced? If it's for public health, then I would have to say yes. Does anyone know if Max fed the hamsters today? Yes, I gave them some steroids, so they should be okay. Russia and Brazil, who have both denialists in charge, are exploding with coronavirus, COVID-19 infection at the moment. 350 million between the two of them. Yeah, I was saying before, Brazil is the next epicenter, and maybe India after that. Russia, I don't know, because Russia have the ability to really lock down, I think, to enforce a lockdown. Because of Putin, if Putin decides, it happens. So while in India the country is so vast, it has such a huge population, concentrated population, I think it's going to be quite difficult to control the virus in India. And the problem in India is that there are very few cases at the moment, and also very few deaths. But I think that's because many people who have died are not being tested, and many of the cases are low because many people haven't been tested, of course. And in Brazil, it's going to be somewhat similar, where you're going to have a large number of deaths, but many people are not being counted as victims of coronavirus because they haven't been tested. They'll be testing the vaccine for months. So something interesting today I saw, I wanted to do a video on it, but I didn't get a chance to do it, was I saw that Matt Hancock said that the UK has hit 100,000 tests. Now, I didn't get a chance to read it before coming on the stream. So is that true? Because they were talking a few days ago about 40,000 tests. And Matt Hancock said, yeah, we hit 100,000 tests a day yesterday or today. Now, that took me by surprise. If it's true, then I think that's a good step in the right direction. But I excuse my skepticism, though, because it sounds quite strange that the UK went from something like 40,000 tests a day a few days ago immediately to 100,000 tests. was there spare capacity? Was there spare tests lying around that the government were able to get their hands on? What happened? They were talking about it on Discord. We were talking about it on Discord. Okay, sorry I missed that. Priti Patel does all the maths. I really trust the Oxford University vaccine trial. They are further ahead than anyone else in the world. First round of human trials ending in June. They will need a second round to adjust dosage. That's good. So it's good that there is someone working on a vaccine and that it's progressing. 100,000 is not true. They mailed out the test to people, but does not mean they send them back, etc. So they've so instead of saying we're doing 100,000 tests a day, we're mailing out 100,000 tests a day. So once again, it's the Tories saying one thing and actually doing another thing. Is it 100,000 tests a day or in total? No, we Scott Stog allegedly it's 100,000 tests a day. But as QA Library said, it's they're mailed out. So funny, the 100,000 tests presented as an achievement when Bozo on the 18th was promising 250,000 at this point. I think the it's 39,000 mailed out tests counted a bit of a lie, really. So they're saying we were mailing them out, but that's not the same as doing them. Look, if I'm not going to be pedantic here, if the government is doing the right thing, if they're testing, then I applaud that. But it doesn't seem to be. There's no transparency here. They don't seem to be doing what they say they're doing. How do you mail out the test? You need either blood or DNA. Or people bleeding themselves. Yeah, because as far as I know, you need a technician or you need a doctor to do the test. It's not a test. I think there are tests you can do at home. It's a thumb prick one, but I don't know if that's the type of test they're talking about. Hancock stood there like a sanctimonious looking smug, knowing that they had pulled a swiffy. EU annoyed with UK, link above. Sorry, no, the links, it's not possible to post links here, Oscar. But if you can tell us the name of the article or where it's from, we can try and find it. There are several working on a vaccine. One of my best friends, cousins, is a viral geneticist. He's one of the major players, and wow, that's great. Oxford team switched from cancer to COVID-19 mid-January. Seems like all of a sudden, the COVID crisis showed we need experts after all. Wonder what Michael Gove thinks about this. Yes. We need actually experts are not that bad after all. Yeah, people are tired of experts. Wasn't that what Michael Gove had said? They're tired of people telling you the truth about Brexit. That was the problem. Kidder says home testing runs risk of contamination samples giving false negatives or false positives. They're very careful in how they phase things in the briefings. Every question and questioner is also vetted beforehand. Yeah, once again, it's this. There is a narrative that the government are doing everything they can. The government are not making any mistakes. If mistakes happen, it's because we couldn't have predicted this this pandemic. So and always I always think there is the fallback to, well, maybe people, the public aren't doing enough. The public are doing great, but they're not doing enough. And if It's RTE. Okay, we can check that out maybe later. The video of Bojo saying target was 250,000 tests, 250,000 on 18th of March is on 18th of March pledged 250,000 per day very soon on the Indie Reference Ref2 channel. It's only 11 seconds long. Okay. Bloody experts helping us, telling us the right thing to do. I wonder how they'll regard experts in the future. Will we go back to saying, oh, people are tired of experts? Bojo looks like he's stepped out of a dishwasher at the best of times. Give the man a break. He's just had a son. He stepped out of a dishwasher. That's fantastic. Whiskas dog, damn them. Yes. And as usual, the media accepts it. I can see the headlines tomorrow. Yeah, it's... At least there is Channel 4. Channel 4 is probably one of the best. With the... At least holding the government to some level of account. So if... this thing about the tests, if it turns out to be... They just mailed out 100,000 tests. But really, it seems to be just taking the piss at this stage. We'll just mail out the tests and then we can say we did 100,000. It's not that they actually care about doing the tests. It's about they want to show that they care about doing the tests. But it's the same with the PPE. And thanks to Killer, I think it was, or Glasgow Kiss, who had sent me... or maybe it was QA Library, apology, on the Discord, had sent me the link to the Panorama. I don't know if you guys had seen the Panorama video. It's on YouTube now. Where just one example was masks for the NHS staff that were in boxes, and there was a best before label stuck on the box that was from 2019. And the guy in the video removed the label and it showed a label under that label which said best before 2016. This is what they were this is what the government were saying. Yeah, we have enough PPE. They were doing things like counting gloves, but counting individual gloves as pieces of PPE, like rubber gloves that doctors use every day. That was being marked down as PPE. It's absurd. And you have doctors, and like very important. I really recommend watching that Panorama video. I didn't get to see it all. Just a moment. Night Raven, thank you so much for that kind donation. You're a star. Thank you so much. But I really do recommend expecting a rage video on that. But I really do recommend watching that Panorama video. I was shocked at what I was... It really does show Britain... No, I don't want to say that. Britain is not a banana republic. But it shows that the Tories want to turn it into a banana republic. They want to render it useless as a state, they want to turn it into a failed state. You have a pandemic. You have a first world country who's organized a committee to look at what is necessary for us to buy, what type of preparations are necessary for us before a pandemic arrives. And they completely ignored the advice. It's beyond words. And you have members of the NHS who are putting their lives on the line, and they're being told, use a bin liner as protection. Use the same mask for hours on end. When in one scenario they said it's necessary to have at least 3 gowns per patient. So when you're dealing with a patient who has a high level of infection, you need at least 3 gowns per day. And the NHS staff didn't even have those proper gowns to wear. Here's the link. Thank you so much for that Glasgow kiss. Yes, please do watch that video after the stream, of course. But please do watch the video. Open it in another tab if you like. But I do recommend watching that video. It's a real eye-opener. Like, I was a little bit skeptical about, okay, maybe they had the PPE, maybe they had problems finding it, maybe they had trouble getting the right equipment. You know, there's a shortage at the moment. But that wasn't the case. They were told long before the outbreak really took hold in the UK, and they sat on their ass. They sat on their hands. They didn't want to do anything. And how many levels of incompetence do you have to accept? For example, the PPE scheme with the European Union. The European Union said, look, we have this scheme if you want to participate in it. And they said, no, we don't want to. We'll go our own way. We'll do it our own way. We don't want to be involved in that. That was a political decision. That wasn't being led by the science, which is another statement that really drives me up the wall. It's another statement that's been invented by these focus group driven committees or bodies that are compiled by the likes of Dominic Cummings. Okay, let's put a group of people together. What slogan do they like most? And we're going to run with that. Yeah, led by science. Sorry, try to keep it at 3 words only. Led by science. We're led by science. Led by scientists. Led by the science or whatever. These slogans, get Brexit done. Brexit means Brexit. No deal is better than a bad deal. All of this sort of crap that's been fed to the public constantly as a distraction to what's really happening. The NHS don't have the proper equipment, but we're being led by the science. That's what's important. Yesterday, I unfortunately started to watch part of a video by Mike Graham, and I had to switch it off because I was disgusted. Maybe I'll do a response video on it, but it was just disgusting. His praise of the government because of how Boris Johnson is dealing with this situation. Look, he was praising Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson has just come out of hospital, and then he's back into hospital again because he has his new son, and he's doing everything he can for the country. And bless Boris Johnson and bless the NHS. The right wing have now co-opted the idea that they care, that the NHS is something important, something to care about, that the public should care about the NHS. It really is an amazing 180. How not that long ago we were seeing documents about how the NHS was going to be sold off to private health insurance companies in the US. There were even politicians saying, well, maybe it's better off run that way. Nigel Farage, for example, talking about how, private healthcare is works much better than the NHS. Even Mike Graham himself was pointing, these trusts don't work very well, then maybe we'd be better off with a private healthcare system. Sorry. Lions led by donkeys, 100%. North of the border, BBC, Britnat Broadcasting Corporation. New York subways will close overnight for coronavirus cleaning. I think the subways probably haven't been cleaned for since they were installed. New Yorkers have complained a lot about how the subways are pretty dirty. This is the only child Bojo officially fathered. Officially. So it's the only child that will have his name on their birth certificate. Officially, of course. Scraggy Bear, welcome. G'day. I'm extremely skeptical of the WHO in this crisis. Lots of cases of no evidence. I think, Stu, that's may not be a case of the WHO. I think there's a lot of pressure on GPs, on doctors to, the same with BAMs. There's a lot of pressure on doctors to write COVID-19 or to not write COVID-19 in some cases. So there's, in the case that there's pressure on doctors, look, put it down as pneumonia, put it down as Alzheimer's in some cases. So we've seen situations where doctors, for example, who are treating people in the community or in care homes who are not able to get into the care home because the care home is locked down, and they have to still sign a death certificate, but they're not able to see the patient who has died. So how can they write a cause of death? So what do? They put down another Jeff Taylor. They put down the old person disease, pneumonia, cardiac arrest, Alzheimer's, things like this. That's what they put down on the death certificate, because they can't put COVID-19 because they haven't tested. I'm not going into conspiracy theories here, but that's the reality of the situation. Many doctors are not able to diagnose what the cause of death was, so they have to make something up because they can't get into the care homes. They can't do autopsies because there aren't resources and because of the risk, of course. I should be not responding to I shouldn't be looking at the stream while I'm talking because I get distracted. Who is this Mike Graham? Yes, he's another Jeff Taylor. Only Jeff Taylor is creepy, while Mike Graham is just a buffoon. Mike Graham is like, I'm trying to think of someone who we could compare Mike Graham to. Maybe Donald Trump with double the IQ, but Donald Trump has maybe single figure IQ. Maybe double the IQ, but more weight. No, I shouldn't be attacking his weight. I'm putting on a bit of weight myself, especially under lockdown. My dad's friend just died, had a primary, secondary cause, also suspected coronavirus, but not tested. But they couldn't put that down on the death certificate. It could have been corona, but you couldn't put it down. Ben Shapiro. I hate Ben Shapiro. Also, I think he's in the closet. He really has something against gay people, but really, really. And normally people who have some fascination, it's normally there in the closet. So sorry to hear that. Yes, so sorry to hear about that Glasgow kiss. Don't mention Dettol Dawn. Dettol Dawn. The price of e-books, journals, magazines, online stores is being cut immediately after the government brought forward plans to scrap VAT on online publications. That's interesting. Ben Shapiro hates Ben Shapiro. Mike Graham is Alex Jones for the posh people. Yes. At least Mike Graham is lazier than at least Alex Jones walks around. Trump is selling bleach in MS in the Trump University. Oh my god. I hope he's not doing demonstration videos. Wonder what they're doing with the London Underground. What about your dog? It's difficult to explain if you're not experiencing it. It's crazy for us in Scotland, having the propaganda on the mainstream media. That is why there is thriving alt media here on YouTube for us. So I just want to jump over to the comments here that were on the channel today. It was today and yesterday. Sorry, just back again. Max, did you see 122,000 tests in UK was a lie? Over 40,000 in the post on their way to people. Mr. Spoon. Yeah, it's QA Library had said before that they were posted. So it's that they were posted, not done. But the government wouldn't say that. The government would say 120,000 tests or 100,000 tests a day. They're in the post. But see, the right approach, and I'm not saying because I'm in Italy it's the right approach. No, in Italy we've made a lot of mistakes. The lockdown was not done correctly. Information was leaked to the media, which created a disaster of a problem. The right approach is in South Korea. They were proactive. They said, okay, we have to deal with this crisis. Test as many people, but really test, not posting out tests. Testing people using experts. Testing people in telephone booth style testing. Testing people in their homes. Testing people in the workplace. Testing people on the street. Testing people in clinics, in hospitals, everywhere, testing and then tracing the testing. So when somebody tested positive, they were traced. So what contact did they have with other people? Those people are tested. Then what contact, if they tested positive, the people that they had contact with were tested as well. This was the right way to do it. New Zealand have done really well too, and I'm not exactly familiar with what New Zealand did, but they're having very good results. In Europe, we've made a lot of mistakes. Some countries more than others, but we have to look going forward at the South Korean model. What did South Korea do right? What did we do wrong? Why don't we copy what they did? Get their experts over here. Invite them over. Ask them, what do we need to improve? What are we doing wrong? That's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be putting our nationalistic pride before the science. We should be letting the science lead. We should be listening to the experts. Once again, not listening to the experts has resulted in tens of thousands of deaths. I really hope we're going to learn something from this. But unfortunately, I think politicians will look after themselves first. They look after their positions, and they're just going to go once again with the spin. Don't acknowledge any mistakes. It seems to be politics is the only place where admitting you made a mistake is a faux pas. admitting you made a mistake is a mistake. Really, politics seems to be the only place. If you're a doctor and you make a mistake, it can be a problem, but you try to resolve it. If you're a scientist and you make a mistake, you try and resolve it and you fix the mistake so it doesn't. You fix the cause. You try to find the cause and you resolve that cause. You fix it so it doesn't happen again. In almost any walk of life, admitting you made a mistake is correct. Hiding the mistake or spinning the mistake seems to be a virtue in politics. And this is the consequence of it. Brexit was the dry run. This is it really coming home to roost. Yes, like people are crazy. Why can't they understand that bleach is poison if ingested? Politics and ideology will always win. ROI have done well. Even their Tisak puts on his doctor's gown a couple of times. Taoiseach. I was like, what's that word? Taoiseach puts on his doctor gown. So Leo Varadkar, yes, he has volunteered to go back into, because he was a doctor before he became Taoiseach, and he's gone back into. Now, I don't know. I admire that if it's real. I'm not trying to take anything away from, honestly, because if he's doing it for the right reasons, then I completely agree with him. If he's doing it for propaganda reasons, then I have a problem with it. But if he's helping people, then I applaud him for that. But I don't know what he's doing it for. I don't want to be overly skeptical. But you know who I am. People should always talk about religion and politics, because that's where they will screw you. We can't close border in Ireland. First case in Ireland was a woman from Northern Ireland came back from holiday through Dublin. Yeah, the problem. I think there needs to be a closure of the border, because you have two different healthcare systems, and two different approaches to dealing with the virus. So they are two different countries in respect to the virus. I think you need to close the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Now, I'm someone who, if you've listened to some of my videos on Brexit and Northern Ireland peace process, I'm completely against having a border in Northern Ireland. But for this pandemic, when you have one approach to dealing with the border, dealing with the pandemic in Northern Ireland, and a different approach in the Republic of Ireland, then you have to close the border. Because you can't have two different systems dealing with one problem. You have to have two similar systems dealing with one problem if you want to have a border open. Piecemeal approach is testing while letting Commons have his way. Scotland can't close the border either, as it's not devolved. I'm in Scotland and I wish Scotland could close the border to England. But is it not possible for Scotland to close the border for security reasons? Does the First Minister not have some type of executive order, in the moment of crisis? Let's imagine a different scenario. There was a terrorist attack, or there was an invasion, from I don't know where, from Norway or from Finland or Sweden. There was an invasion, and it was necessary for the Scottish government to close the border. Surely there must be something in legislation that allows them to do that. I'm impressed with Portugal. 409,000 tests done and over 1 million in stock. Kim, welcome to the stream. So I don't want to focus too much on the number of tests. It's important that tests are carried out, but there is also contact tracing. So one thing is to have the tests, the other is to have the contact tracing. So the way that when you test people, you check who have they been in contact with, and then you check any those people also. You test those people also. That's why, if you have huge numbers of tests taking place, it means that you're checking a lot of the population. So it's no good having 100,000 tests if you're only testing 50,000 people, and those 50,000 people are just in the NHS. Because, of course, the virus doesn't say, okay, I'm only going to go to the hospital because the NHS is there. The virus goes everywhere. So that's why you need to test not just frontline staff, but everyone, or as close to possible as everyone, or as close to possible everyone who's in a population center. I'm not saying you just do random testing, but you have to have a good program, frontline staff, of course, but also population centers, because they are where it spreads most. You can say, if your tests are scarce, you can say, look, we'll leave the countryside, because the chance of spread in the countryside is much lower than in a population center. But of course, I'm not an expert here, okay, so don't quote me on that. Nomax, devolution allows the defence and security is the domain of Westminster and UK. I have empathy for Scotland. No, that power lies with London. Defence is London matter, but Scottish police could close or search at the border, but it's the same as Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland type border. Hadrian's Wall, you rebuild the wall. Get Trump over to build the wall. You could sequester his golf courses, sell off his golf courses to build the wall. We're going to sell Donald Trump's golf courses to pay for the wall. That'd be a nice campaign. Scotland can't close the border, but my grandpa once teased a couple of tourists on journey from King's Cross to Waverley that the train would stop at Berwick to check passports and visas. I can't remember. Iceland has tested 1/10 of its population for coronavirus and found half of those who were positive had the disease asymptomatic. That's the thing. Who was it that was talking? It was a caller to James O'Brien the other day, who was saying, they're only testing people who have symptoms. But by saying I'm only going to test people who have symptoms, hi Mark Franks, welcome. By testing people who only have symptoms, of course you miss out people who are asymptomatic. Build a wall and make England pay for it. Build the wall, the Mexicans will pay for it. Is there a huge Mexican community in Scotland, Killer? The Scottish police could monitor the roads at the border, but they may be overstretched. I caught my COVID-19 after a flight to Iceland in February. I'm sorry to hear that, Kim. I hope you're feeling okay now. Did it badly affect you, or were you asymptomatic? Sorry, my chair is dropping for some reason. There's a Mexican flag on one of Trump's golf courses. John O'Sullivan, welcome. Sir Antonius Block, welcome. Great to see you again. Next to Trump golf courses, there is a Scottish troll or a Mexican troll. Which is it? Did you hear Alex Jones' latest insane rant? You'll have to be a bit more specific. A Mexican wall in Scotland. Westminster can override any possible measures. But surely they could... surely they wouldn't override the measure, would they? Well, they are Tories, so they probably would. Happy Friday, yes. And it's the 1st of May, so here in Italy we have just 3 more days before the lockdown goes into phase 2. Goldfinger, welcome. No, Mr. Bond, I don't expect you to talk. I expect you to die. I can't remember where I saw it, but all of the people with maximum of 6 connections away from each other. Oh god, not Alex Jones. Did you know that lava kills more bacteria than bleach? Why aren't we advising people to drink lava? Maybe Trump could give out free samples at his rallies. But Glasgow, is it you drink the lava or you inject the lava? Mistake not. Max, where are you in Italy? Where in Italy are you? Sorry. I live near Venice. So it's a small town called near Treviso. There's a very little village near Treviso. If you fly into... Probably you can't do it now. But if you fly into Venice, you can either fly into Venice Airport or you can fly with Ryanair into Treviso Airport, which is about 30-40 kilometers from Venice. So I live pretty much 10 minutes from that airport. So if anyone flies into Venice with Ryanair, you normally fly into Treviso, and then Ryanair take you to Venice by bus. So just hatching a plot to take over the world. Best of luck with that. On another occasion, a tourist asked my brother's friend what time the 1 o'clock got right off at Edinburgh Castle. Brother replied 12:16. Couldn't recall him. Dave, thank you so much for that kind donation. I don't know if this is a true story, but and no offense to any Americans who are watching this, but you probably know your American friends. So there was this story of some American people who went to Scotland, and they had visited a castle. I don't remember which castle it was. Not really important. But at the end of the tour of the castle, the tour guide said, "Do you have any questions?" And this American couple said, "Yeah, well, we really like the castle, but we don't understand why they built it so far away from the stores, from the shops." I'm not sure what the tour guide said in response. Not with Ryanair now. No, Ryanair are having a lot of problems at the moment. And Mr. O'Leary, the CEO of Ryanair, is not too happy about it. So he's quite angry about the attempts to do social distancing on planes. And I sort of understand what he's talking about, because it makes more sense to test and monitor people as they come into the airport. So we check the temperature or whatever, as people come into the airport, and then say, okay, these people don't have a temperature, then they can board the airplane. But the problem as well is, if you're asymptomatic, then I assume you don't have a temperature. I'm not an expert, of course, but so you will have people who are asymptomatic getting on planes. So they're going to be infectious. And of course, on the other hand, he was saying, look, if you're on a plane and you say, okay, we're going to tape off every other seat or every middle seat, that you're still closer to the person in front of you or behind you, than you are to the person on your right or on your left. Sir Antonius, thank you so much for that hamster food fund. Thank you so much. Ah, you're from are you Australian? I didn't know. I thought you were from the United States. Sounds legit. I assume you're talking about the story about the Americans visiting the Scottish castle. It's like, yeah, why did they build a castle so far from the shops? Michael, let's have people stand up on the planes on a plane seat, O'Leary. Exactly. I would believe, you know, the way when you travel on a bus and you can reach up and hold on to, you know, this a plastic loop that you can hold on to when you're on a bus standing up. I wouldn't be surprised if Michael O'Leary applied that also to his airlines. Of course, it's not possible now. Just pack them in like sardines, you know. Thank you very much, Glasgow Kiss. Yes, you can support on Patreon. If you're a patron, you have a special access to our Discord server. Finnair has cash enough to survive 1 year. I remember, isn't it Virgin who were asking for help? But I was talking about that in the last live stream as well. So why did they build castles from the shops? I really don't know. I think it was maybe they liked a bit of peace and quiet. They didn't like the, you know, the rustle and bustle. No, the bustle of the town. So that's why that's why New Zealand and Australia were putting anyone arriving 2 weeks into quarantine regardless of tests at the point of departure. And of course you have a country like Australia, New Zealand, which are islands, so they don't have to share borders with other countries, so they're able to completely lock down their countries and monitor all traffic in and out of their countries. In a way, Ireland and the UK pretty much could as well. It's very difficult here in Italy or in Spain or in France or in Germany to do the same thing. The view's better from the castle mode. I was speaking in San Francisco whether they speak. I was asked in San Francisco if they speak English in Australia. Let's not take the piss too much out of Americans. Although another story, it was this actually happened to my wife and I. We were in Venice one day, and these American tourists came up and they asked us, can you tell us how to get to St. Mark's Square? And we gave them some directions, because it's not so easy, and if you have a GPS on your phone, it doesn't always work because the buildings block out some of the signals. And we said, well, you know, it's over there, turn left, turn right, whatever, and have a nice time. And they said, yeah, it's just this city is so full of old stuff. As I said, sorry, what do you mean? And they said, it's just churches and museums. It's all old things. There's nothing new here. It's like, this is Venice. What were you expecting? It's not Dubai, okay? Really, what people say, yeah, I'll go to Venice for a weekend or for a week to see what do you expect to see in Venice? Okay, I was sort of dumbfounded by that. The Scots Diaspora was super keen. Biggest Gaelic speaking population outside Scotland is USA. Well, the return would be crazy if they got independence. The homecoming in Edinburgh was incredible. Drop pandas. Bulgaria, 4 weeks quarantine. Just got the okay to come out of isolation today, but it leaves you with a horrible cough. It seems to affect everyone very differently. Thanks for that comment, Mike Bears. Well, I hope you're well now. So I assume if you're coming out, you have made a recovery. I hope you're fine, because I've heard stories about some recoveries have the virus has takes its toll on other organs in the body. So make sure to check yourself out for other organs like kidneys or heart or whatever, because I've heard that it can take its toll on those other organs. Yanks Matt, those Yanks Max with wearing their MAGA hats. No, I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Has closed the federal border. Some states closed theirs too. This is unprecedented and not entirely legal. They're expecting to see Las Vegas. Yeah, they should have gone to Las Vegas. Is it? The one in Las Vegas, you could, at least we had Starbucks there. Over here in Germany, broken curtain. Over here in Germany, we now have to wear masks to cover our mouths and noses. So I got some bandanas and learned how to turn them into face masks. Very good. The pirate headscarves. That's cool. Here in Italy also we have to wear masks when we're out and about, and we also have to wear gloves when we enter a shop or a public building. Glasgow Kiss, yes, smash that like button. 85 watching and only 48 likes. That's not good, guys. Hit that like button. Yes, it's going up. Oxford may have a vaccine by September. That's really hopeful. Yeah, I'm really hopeful for that they'll have a vaccine. There are a number of tests for it to go through yet, but fingers crossed. And Dr. Fauci in the US was talking about a possible drug that's, I don't remember what it's called, but it's possible that this drug could reduce the effects. It reduces death by 30% in some cases. So that's looking very positive. So we are making some great progress. But I do still feel that social distancing and some type of lockdown will have to stay in place, even when we have a vaccine. Because if there's a mutation, there's still a risk of a second wave. I noticed for many who are recovering, they had hard time walking and needed therapy. How effective are the mask wearing habit that didn't cover the nose? Is that adequate? Lots of people wear them like that here. As far as I know, most of the vapor that causes the spread comes from the mouth. So it's more important to cover the mouth than the nose. But of course, I'm not. Don't quote me on that. But it's important. At least the most important is to cover the mouth, because that's where most of the vapor comes from. Where the vapor is spread most from. I can't figure out the face covering myself. Try the bandana, but this causes my spectacles to steam up. Yeah, the same thing happened to my wife. She wears the mask, so she had to put the mask under. So we have the regular surgical mask. You put it under the glasses somewhat. So your glasses are sitting slightly on top of the mask. Otherwise, you won't be able to see where you're going. As a Star Wars fan, I want to get the Han Solo. I don't know if you saw the film with Han Solo and Chewie when they met. Han Solo was a sort of stormtrooper type guy, and he wore a cool mask. He was on some dusty planet, but that'd be cool to wear. It'd be probably quite hot though. Okay, so I'm just going to read some of the comments here. So Adam Hurd said, "Is it bad that someone on my journalism degree course who has solely allowed me to complete this bingo?" Yeah, so if you hadn't seen this before, this is the conspiracy theory bingo for coronavirus. QA Library says, need to go out and get some bread? Do you need some ice cream or wine? Yes. Why do you even ask that? Ice cream and wine, for sure. Sorry, caps lock still on. Max, is there an Italian Dr. Fauci for your region? No. Every region has their own, the governor or the president of the region. Nevin, thank you so much for that kind donation. So we have the president of the region here. His name is I've forgotten his name. But every region has its president of the region, or we also call it governor of the region, and then they normally do the daily press release with the head of the Civil Protection Agency. But there isn't a doctor like Dr. Fauci, someone who's but they are listening to the medical community. So it's normally directed through the politician and the head of the Civil Protection Agency. Now the Prime Minister may do some speeches with doctors, but I haven't actually seen that. But I don't think there's really a requirement for that, because most, at least here in Veneto, the president of the region here is, I don't agree with his politics. He's from the League Party, which is a right-wing party, but I actually have to respect him in the sense that he has dealt with this crisis in a correct way, and he hasn't let politics get in the way. So he's not like Trump, who, these right-wing demagogues who are saying, let's just get the economy back going and the virus isn't a problem. No, this guy is really taking it seriously. Zaya, sorry, that's his name. President Zaya. So he's, once again, I don't agree with his politics. He's from the League Party, which is, it's almost like the Brexit party in the UK. But there are the odd one or two in that party who actually are surprisingly decent enough people. Or Salvini. No, Salvini is just like Trump. Salvini has been trying to play this for his own benefit. But Zaya is different. I once again, I don't agree with his politics. I wouldn't vote for him. But he has dealt with this crisis pretty well. WFLA News Channel 8. Huge crowds gathering in California. So in California, they opened the beaches, and then they had to close the beaches because the beaches were full, and now the people are crowding up again. I understand the idea of opening essential businesses and gradually moving towards an end of a lockdown, but we can't open it all immediately, and we can't open beaches for God's sake. The idea of opening beaches, okay, you have people pushing against each other, people lying on plastic furniture and then moving around. Every beach has bars, clubs, things connected with them, and of course, people are touching each other all the time. Night Raven, most recent Patreon. Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Americans now want a different society, and Medicare was on Democracy Now! Today. Unfortunately, I think that boat has sailed. Bernie Sanders was the one who would give them Medicare for all. Of course, no, I'm jumping the gun a little bit by saying that that boat has sailed. There are politicians who are running for Congress and the Senate who will support Medicare for all, and hopefully they would put pressure on Joe Biden if he becomes president to pass Medicare for all. Although Joe Biden has said he wouldn't do it, but I think if there was sufficient pressure put on him as president, then he would. Everyone in my doctor's office today was wearing a mask. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, dead on with the need to wear masks. Yeah, I've been talking about this for ages, that masks are necessary. I know they're uncomfortable. I know they look weird. I know they make other people feel uncomfortable. But we have to wear them. We have to do this minimum of social distancing and protection for others for a period of time. There will arrive a time when we don't need to wear them, but for the foreseeable future we have to. We can't hammer the Americans enough. Their system is so broken on so many levels. And I haven't been able to find an update on what's happening with Medicare for all regarding the coronavirus. Do people... So if there... I hope there's still some Americans still here on the stream, because we said some bad stuff about them regarding visiting Scotland. I hope they're still here. But the situation where Trump was saying, if you get sick, you won't have to pay for your treatment. Is that still the case for the coronavirus? Mike Pence going to the Mayo Clinic was asked to wear a mask, and he said no. Really? Everyone else in the Mayo Clinic was wearing a mask, and Mike Pence was the only one there not wearing a mask. Like, I understand for optics. Maybe it's optics. Maybe they feel that if they wear a mask, it demonstrates that they're weak or something, or it's going to upset the voters. Trump voters would be, abandoning Trump in their troves if they see Trump or Mike Pence wearing a mask. But it's absurd. How can you say we're dealing with this crisis, but we can't be bothered to wear a mask? I wish more politicians also here in Europe. I think Boris Johnson should be wearing a mask. I think Conte here in Italy should be wearing a mask. I think Merkel should be wearing a mask. I think Macron should be wearing a mask. I think Nicola Sturgeon should be wearing a mask. Not because it's necessary in that moment to protect other people, but because it sends a message. That's why I think it's necessary. It sends a message to the people. If the public see Boris Johnson, for example, wearing a mask, then they might think, oh, actually, maybe it's necessary. But some people need that bit of a nudge, okay? Back to our nudge theory once again. But some people need to see the leaders doing it. Kevin says Boris Johnson should be wearing a gag, not a mask. No, you wouldn't know what they do, what they have to do to get into Eton. I wear a mask and gloves every time I'm in a shop. Well done, Glasgow Kiss. I agree 100%. It's not so much for you. You could be perfectly healthy. It's so that in case you're asymptomatic, you don't spread it to other people. And if more people see you wearing it, more people will say, oh, maybe it's necessary. It's a small cost to pay for us to make sure that others are safe. If the US had the UK's NHS, it would have been sold off years ago by the Republicans. Remember, they're trying to eliminate Social Security too. But I think, on the other hand, I think once you have something, it's difficult to get rid of it. So this is one of the things also. No, I agree with you, Jerry. Probably they would. But I do, on the other hand, think that once you have something, it's very difficult to get rid of it. Yes, they've been trying to get rid of Social Security and Medicare for a long time. But Armitage, welcome to the stream. But on the other hand, something like a UBI, if a UBI was put in place, it would destroy any party if they attempted to remove a UBI, because people would be happy with it. People would say, this is fantastic, it's helping me. And any party that said, I'm going to defend it against the other party who are going to take it away, I think would win every election. Imagine the government say we're going to give you €1,000 of dollars, pounds a month. Hi Tara D, welcome. Good to hear you live again. Great to see you here too. Imagine the government is going to give you that every month, and the opposition are going to say we're going to take that away. Who would you vote for, irrespective of your politics? I think most people would defend that because it helps them a huge amount. That's why I'm so supportive of a UBI. Jamie Sample, welcome. Wow, we're up to 84. Maybe on your stream. My software always has a few numbers, a few lower than the actual amount. The NHS is Britain's new state religion. The government, the Tories, dare not privatise it. John, I would like to hope that's true. But I can guarantee as soon as this crisis is over, the old, maybe if we had a private healthcare system, we could have dealt with this problem better. Do we need all these nurses now? Is it really that much value for money? These are all the types of questions that will be coming in. Richard, welcome from Thailand. Hope you're well. 89. Okay. Thanks, Cat and Cat. It's the same. I want us to get us over 100. Hit that like button. Look, they almost eliminated Obamacare. UBI will be cut each and every way by Republicans. Look at how they've cut unemployment insurance, and we pay for it out of our own pay. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there any? What about these checks that the government have written? Was it $1,200 per month? Not per month. Once-off payment. Are they going to issue new ones because people can't survive on $1,200 for 3 or 4 months? Princess Charlotte turned 5. Why the fuck am I giving that notification? Because it's important, Glasgow Kiss. Know your place. Hi Max, what's the chance that you give it a Brexit? That chances you give to the Brexit 2 years extension. So a channel called Different Bias, and he has been saying that they will extend because it can't the crisis be the crisis. The economy already is also not extending. So I don't know if you saw my video. So I had said that there are 2 possible ways they'll go. They will extend, or they will crash out. Now I'm thinking politically, Boris Johnson. It's difficult to predict because Boris Johnson is unpredictable. Boris Johnson cares about himself, but there's an extra factor here, is that Boris Johnson may not be the one who's in charge. So if Boris Johnson may be just a puppet at this stage, because if Boris Johnson becomes a liability, the Tories will drop him, and the Brexit mentality connected with Boris Johnson may go as well, and in that case, an extension would be asked for immediately. That's the way I would see it. But if Boris Johnson is still gung ho, if he's still in charge and driving forward, I think there's a chance that he would risk crashing out. If you look at what's been done so far, the NHS needed certain things. These were not provided. The economy is suffering. They're not investing in the right way. It's difficult to say. I'm split on whether they would do an extension or not. Now, an extension of 1 year. I would say an extension of 1 year is more likely than an extension of 2 years, because 1 year would kick the can down the road a bit, and it would be okay. We're just asking for 1 year. That's all we need. Because if they ask for 2, then it shows weakness in the eyes of Brexiteers, and they don't want to do that. So I think if they do ask for an extension, it'll be for 1 year. But if they don't, they will crash out, and then they will blame any problems on the EU. The same way that they're blaming any problems on coronavirus, blaming the problems of coronavirus on who? On their preparation? No. The problem is nobody could have known about this. Or subtly blame the public. We need to maintain our lockdown. We need to respect social distancing. We need to do this. You've been doing a great job, but you have to stay. You have to continue doing that great job. That's the type of language that Boris Johnson is using. That the onus is on the public. The onus is never on the government. The government are doing a fantastic job. The NHS are doing a fantastic job. So it's never the government's fault. You notice that. The government will never say, okay, we made mistakes, but now we're fixing it. No. Nobody could have predicted this. This was not our fault. It was something unprecedented. Although it wasn't, because there were committees set up to deal with things like this. And I think in the same way they would deal with a crashing out of the EU. Or sorry, not a crashing out, but the end of the extension and crashing out without a deal. They would say it's not our fault. Who could have predicted this? It's the EU. The EU wanted to harm us. The EU is collapsing. It's not our fault. Nobody could have seen this. The same old rhetoric. I hope I'm wrong here, but that's what I would see. Now I hope that there would be an extension. The longer the extension, the better. Because in reality, in a way, if the UK has left in name only, and the extension is continually renewed, then in a way the Brexiteers have got what they wanted. We're free. That's their response. But the economy is protected. So the UK is still able to, in a way, remain aligned with the European Union regarding tariffs, regarding conditions, goods and services are protected in a way. It's able to continue in that way. But without and at the same time keep the Brexiteers happy. So we just keep kicking the can down the road for the next 10 or 15 years. And then another government will arrive and they will kick the can down the road, and then another government will arrive and they will do the same. It's possible that could happen. That no one will actually say, look, a no-deal Brexit is just too terrible to contemplate. And we would take the blame for it. Can you imagine a new government came in after Boris Johnson? They wouldn't want to take the blame for a no-deal Brexit. It would be much easier for them just to ask for another extension and say, look, we're going to get a deal, before the end of this parliament. But I'm not an expert, of course, on this, but that's the way I would see it. Max, do you think that the British will have the customs post installed in Northern Ireland by January the 1st? No, definitely not. As required by the withdrawal agreement. No, not with this crisis at the moment. Definitely not. Depends on how this crisis progresses. If there's a quick exit from it, perhaps there could be some agreement, but I don't really see that happening. I'm more inclined to see a kicking of the can, because if you don't kick the can, then you have to do something, and the Tories are not great at doing something. They're better off, they prefer to do nothing and just blame someone else for things not working out. So the best solution for them is to say they're doing something and then just kick the can down the road. They will blame the EU and Remainers. Yeah. But I still am somewhat now inclined to think that they will just kick the can down the road. Because if you think about when Theresa May was Prime Minister, there was nothing really stopping the UK from leaving. The Brexiteers were always talking about, let's just leave now, let's just leave now. And in a way they were right. They could have just said, let's leave now. Of course they wouldn't, because it'd be extremely damaging to the economy. In the year 2525, the Brexit transition will still be allowed. Now, Killer, I hope you're not stealing poetry from a wee Scots dog. We'll probably have the British Army reinstalled. Let's hope not. In the year 2192, the British Prime Minister visits Brussels to ask for an extension. But Britain, and what will Britain look like in 2192? The pandemic has exposed the private hospital trusts in England formed under the Health and Social Care Act 2012, a pseudo-privatised model. England is realising that they don't have the NHS they thought they did. Wouldn't it be great if there was a re-nationalisation of the NHS? That could be something that Keir Starmer could run on. Boris Johnson sold it off, basically. Now it's time to renationalise it. I think it could be a vote winner. No Tory MP wants to be blamed for killing the economy. So that's why I don't see them crashing out. But I don't like to predict. Evidum. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. Welcome to the stream. That's why I find it difficult to think that Boris Johnson would crash out. But Boris Johnson is not predictable. I didn't think Boris Johnson would lie to Parliament. I didn't think he would attempt to break the law. But he did it anyway. To Armistice, Scott Stock says, and yet in the US, more deaths than the whole of Vietnam War. In the UK, more killed than during the Blitz. And then Churchill and then you had Churchill and Roosevelt. Today, Bojo and Bojo the Clan and the Oompa Loompa. It's a 6'2" Oompa Loompa. The orange-faced man. Glasgow Kiss, thank you very much. Extension or no? If you had asked me about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I would have probably said it's about 50-50. But now I'm convincing myself in the live stream. Thanks so much for that question. I would say there will be an extension. Because there's I don't really see the political cost for Boris Johnson not asking for an extension. The economy is on its knees at the moment, so that would be an absolute disaster if there's a crashing out without a deal. The EU may try to come to the aid of the UK if there is, serious consequences, and say, look, we'll give you some concessions, but it wouldn't be sufficient to reduce the impact to a level that would be acceptable to the public. You've just gone through this crisis, and now you want to throw people under the bus, under a big red bus again. No, I don't think that's going to happen. If a month ago, or even less than a month ago, I would have said it was about 50-50, but now I see it as more and more likely that there would be an extension. I think someone in the comments said that Phil had said 2 years. I don't know. Maybe Phil has his ear closer to the ground than I do, but I would say probably a year, because 2 years would, to the Brexiteers and to the general public, it would show a sign of weakness, perhaps. But a year would buy enough time to do some more jiggery pokery and then ask for another extension after that. And there's also the possibility that Boris Johnson may not be Prime Minister a year from now. As I said, as soon as he shows signs of weakness, they'll dump him and somebody else will be put in place. Do Do you think asking for an extension would lose the Tories too much support? No, I don't think so. See, the public wouldn't see it as a weakness because Dominic Cummings, see, we're looking at it from the point of view of, okay, well, asking for an extension, the Brexiteers would go crazy and they wouldn't accept that. But you have to understand it from the point of view of how it would be spun to the public. It wouldn't be said we're asked for an extension. It would be presented in some other way. And Dominic Cummings would be out and about looking for the right slogan or the right message on how to present it. So he probably twisted in a way of saying, look, the EU asked us for an extension. And we said, look, okay, considering the EU is on its knees, we'll give them an extension. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something in that line, that it was them that asked for an extension, not us. That they need us more than we need them, of course. Or I'm not sure how they would word it, but I'm sure Dominic Cummings would find a way to ram it through. Or they could say we're leaving without a deal, but they're not really leaving without a deal. How they'd sell that to the Brexiteers, I don't know. But I think we're going to have to see how the exit from this crisis is dealt with, and then we're going to be able to have a clearer picture of how Brexit is going to be dealt with after that. Because I think we're pretty much inside another storm at the moment, and it's difficult to see out beyond that at the moment. But it's interesting to speculate. Coronavirus patient 42 kept testing positive 5 weeks after his symptoms disappeared, as officials warn fragments of the virus can linger in the body for months. Oh my God! So that's interesting, Anthony. So this runs against the idea that and Dr. Campbell. So I recommended Dr. Campbell some weeks ago, who has said that you'll be symptomatic, but you won't be infectious. Mark, thank you so much for that pledge on Patreon. Thank you so much. We have a new Patreon. God damn it, my autocorrect is confused again. I use 4 different languages and I'm constantly switching the keyboard. Wow, that makes you sound so cool, Verti. Jerry asks, how is the UK going to borrow the money they need if they crash out? UK is looking for £180 billion now. Are they going to go hat in hand to the EU or the World Bank? I think they'd print more money. Quantitative easing, maybe. Really, it's hard to know what they would do. Would they borrow more? Perhaps. There is always the idea, if you borrow today, the government that follows you will have to pay for it. So it's possible they could borrow huge amounts. Say we're building railways or something. We're building call centers. No, he won't, Maxi. Sorry. No, he won't, Max. Bozo is due paternity leave. Expect him to take that for the extension of the deadline. How long is Boris Johnson going to be on paternity leave? Is it? I don't know how long is paternity leave in the UK. Mark, if you are Patreon, then look at Maxi's most relevant post. Yes, please do. You can join our Discord server. Thanks to Glasgow Kiss for suggesting that. What would I do without you guys? That we can blow our arse from the edge, he's saying and meaning. Anthony C, that's why I commented earlier that I would not go anywhere near a newborn baby if I had the coronavirus. Is Boris Johnson hugging the baby? I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, Like if he could still be infectious after testing positive. Now, is this a problem with the test? Is it the problem, of course, with the virus remaining in the body? There's talk. There were autopsies done where there were traces of the virus, not just in the lungs but in other organs. Yeah, I don't want to be opening a can of worms here, but it does sound. Now, these may be just isolated cases, but it is extremely worrying. Max and us chatted there a lot. I wish I could chat more. I should chat more in there. He was present at the birth. He was present at the. Oh my god. It's not funny when the autocorrect is randomly speaking Spanish, Swedish, English, or Finnish. Let's suppose that with some miracle it will be 2-year extension. Do you think in this 2 years Keir Starmer has enough time and in 2 years Bojo will be gone? I mean, get rid of. I don't see Bojo. I don't see Boris Johnson lasting for a long time as Prime Minister. I have to be careful how I phrase that. I don't see him lasting very long time as Prime Minister because he has pretty much served his purpose. What was Boris Johnson's purpose? To win a majority using Brexit. I think that's the purpose Boris Johnson had as Prime Minister. As Tory leader, I should say. Win the election and using Brexit. And he did that. He said he had his get Brexit done. He did that and he won an 80-seat majority. He can't go any higher. He's not going to, win another election with an 100-seat majority because people are not very happy with his dealing of this crisis. People are very happy with the NHS. People are worried about the NHS being sold off. George, thank you very much for that donation. George has joined as a Patreon. Great to hear. Lots of new patrons. So I don't see Boris Johnson staying on as Prime Minister for a long time. And what will happen is if Boris Johnson is replaced, I have a feeling it'll be with somebody more moderate, and I think they would take the UK in a different direction. Maybe a more moderate approach to the EU, saying, okay, we're going to reset the relationship. Because it would be a different captain on the ship. That's also a hope of mine. Now, maybe I'm injecting a hope into reality, and that is not always a good thing to do. He'll be sacrificed by the true Tories when he won't have any meaningful purpose other than being a way to be blamed. Yes. Like, what has happened to Theresa May now? Theresa May is gone and forgotten. I think there was one piece of video of her in Parliament celebrating getting Brexit done, and that was it, or voting through the withdrawal agreement bill. That was it. We haven't heard anything more about Theresa May. So Boris Johnson would probably go a similar way. There's no love for the leader. The leader serves a purpose. The party will remain. The leader will be replaced. The leader is expendable. Somebody should make a movie about expendable people. But that's what I'm saying. Nonsense. I say Boris will serve a minimum of 3 years at Her Majesty's pleasure. I don't know. But I wouldn't bet on it. We've seen stranger things. Theresa May has already been forgotten while she was still PM. Good point, Night Raven. Who is your top candidate to replace Bozo? I would say probably Dominic Raab, although it's not a choice of mine. But who is most likely? I would say Dominic Raab, or it depends on how the Tories are able to. No, I would say Dominic Raab. There are a few other people, but I don't see them anywhere near as likely. But I could be wrong. Seduction Asylum says, what do you think if Bojo wasn't winning last summer, the fight against Jeremy Hunt, and Jeremy Hunt was PM this time? Do you think he would have? I think the situation would have been completely different. But it depends on how much pressure, how much power the Prime Minister really does have. But it's interesting because Boris, a lot of people voted for Boris because he's Boris. So I don't think Jeremy Hunt would have been able to win over the same amount of support. Jeremy Hunt is no Boris Johnson. So a lot of the working class, ex-Labour working class, voted for Boris because they like Boris, not his policies. To some extent, getting Brexit done, yes, but they also just like Boris because he's a bit of a buffoon. He's a bit of an idiot. He's able to relate to them some way. I don't know how. I can't think of it. How can anyone who's working class relate to Boris Johnson? How can Boris Johnson relate to anyone who's working class? I can't see any connecting line there. But for some of those people, he related to them, and he won over their support where it was necessary. And I don't think Jeremy Hunt would have been able to do that. So I think the Tories probably would have won the election, but would a much smaller majority. Or it could have been a hung parliament because they had Jeremy Hunt. But I think we're looking at it from the wrong perspective, because if Jeremy Hunt had been Prime Minister, I think he would have asked for an extension. It would have driven the ERG mad, and he could have been challenged, and then we could have had Boris Johnson, or we could have had someone else. So we could have ended up with Boris Johnson either way. It could have been before an election or after an election, or there may not have been an election at all. So it could have gone in a very different direction if if Boris had won the leadership contest. He's a buffoon and an idiot. Good reason to vote for him. It's not my reason. Okay, Mike. Sorry, it's not my reason to vote for him. But for some working class Labour people, it was good enough reason. I did a video about it just before the election, and there were people who were part of a focus group who said, I'll vote for Boris. I like Boris. They didn't ask the person about what policies Boris would implement. Usually when they were pushed, it was about getting Brexit done. Yeah, we're going to be free again. They were already Brexiteers, so they would have voted for Boris anyway, because he was a Brexiteer. There was no way they were going to vote for Jeremy Corbyn, even though Jeremy Corbyn was a Brexiteer as well. Can we use letterboxes? Linian? Oh, sorry, no, I don't understand. Can we use letterboxes? Boris's £1 spent in Croydon is worth more than £1 spent in Strathclyde Johnson. Boris £1 spent. So his money. He's more acceptable in Croydon. Theresa May was done once her video dancing video. Once her disco dancing video was posted on social media. No rhythm at all. What was she doing? Is there no one who says you should do? I understand. Look, I understand how it's not good to have overly prepared politicians. They should have a little bit of humanity. But Theresa May had zero humanity. The Maybot? Hardly knew the woman. That's why he's likable, buffoon, and idiot. So many people related to him voted for him. Yes, because he's just like them. I'm impressed about this Keir Starmer, though I get his name wrong every time. I know it's a strange name, Keir. I think it was the first Labour MP was called Keir, so he was named after the first ever Labour MP. If Jeremy Hunt was PM, do you think he was handling a lot better the COVID-19 of the economy crisis? A lot better. No, I don't think it would have made any difference regarding the COVID-19 because what Boris did, Boris was not really in charge. A lot of the problems related to COVID-19 in the UK were things that came along before Boris. And I'm not using this as a reason that Boris had no hand in it. It's because of the Tory decisions for over the last number of years, over the last 10 years. The Tories had gutted the NHS. They'd reduced funding. They had put in policies to reduce the number of staff from the EU, from other countries. So this disabled the NHS, handicapped, I should say, the NHS a great deal. So they weren't able to work in the best way possible. They were dependent on the government making the right decisions years ago. And so if Jeremy Hunt had been Prime Minister, I don't think it would have made any difference because it was policies that came along before Boris Johnson. But of course, would he have dealt with it better? Probably. But I don't see it making that much difference. He probably would have dealt with it better because he wouldn't have the likes of Dominic Cummings in his cabinet or running the show. So I think it may have worked out a bit better, but the problems that the NHS is facing would have been the same. So they may have dealt with it slightly earlier, but I don't think it would have made a huge amount of difference. Keir Hardie, yes, that was Labour's first MP and party leader, MP for West Ham in London. Thank you very much, Andy, for that piece of information. I'm going to throw a party when the lockdown is over and invite Boris. You were creeping at that. Neil Allen. Oh my God, you guys crack me up. But don't do it. By the way, I'm curious the way you see the things. Do you think that after Boris got the virus, he woke up and it isn't a joke, and he rethinks his strategy after staying? No, I had hoped that Boris would have, as I said on other occasions, a road to Damascus conversion, like Saul on the road to Damascus. But I think there's too much Tory in. He's like Darth Vader. Remember in Star Wars, he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. So I had hoped that Boris would say, "Wow, look, this is something worth protecting." But if he really truly felt that, then he would have come out and said, "We made mistakes. We didn't do what we should. We are now going to do what we should, or I will resign as Prime Minister." Because if that were me, really, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet or something like this here. But if I had gone into hospital and these people had saved my life, I would have come out and said, I am going to do everything possible to give you what you need, to get you the help that you need, to increase your salary. I will move mountains because you have done this for me. You've done your job. I know it's your job to save lives. But if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here. Is his own life not worth more than the corruption of the Tory party? For him, does he not have a shred of morality to say, to hell with this party, to hell with these politicians, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to stand up for these people. And if I can't, I'm going to freaking resign. That's what I would do. I would say, these are my principles. I was wrong before. Or I thought I was doing the right thing before. These people are our life and blood. We cannot survive without the NHS. Millions of people are treated every year by the NHS. They wouldn't be around if it wasn't for that. This is more important than politics. This is more important than Brexit. This is more important than nationhood. If you can't, as I've said on numerous occasions, if you don't have a government that looks after the health and the education of its citizens, then what is the point in having a government? I don't see the point in having a government if those two aspects are not protected. So I really think if Boris came out of hospital after being saved, he went into intensive care. It wasn't just he went in and they gave him a flu shot or a coronavirus shot, or they fluffed the pillow or something, or they brought him an extra, I don't know, sausage for breakfast or something. But they sat with him in intensive care. I believe he went into intensive care. I'm not believing that it was all fake. But if he went into intensive care, that is something serious. I have seen a relative of mine who was in intensive care, and it is scary. It's scary for people who are looking at the situation. It must be terrifying for those who are in intensive care. And when you come out of that, I don't know how you can't think, this is something that I have to protect. This is something I have to fight for. And if I can't fight, if there is a wall in front of me and I can't break through that wall, that political wall, then I'm going to do the honourable thing and say, I'm not going to be part of this corrupt and disgusting system. I don't know how Boris can't do that. I try to reach inside. I've talked about this before, and I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but I've talked about this before. How is it not possible for someone not to have a little bit of humanity and say, this is the right thing to do? And even if it's for their own narcissism, do they not have the idea behind? Do they not have this idea that I could be the person who's remembered for saving the NHS. I could be the person who's remembered for turning the ship around. The Tories wanted to drive the NHS into a wall. I'm the one who turned it around. You can imagine if Churchill had said during the Blitz, look, maybe the Germans aren't that bad after all. Or when they bombed London, he said, oh, well, we'll do whatever anyway. The Germans are sending us money or something. I'm rambling here and I'm not making much sense. I'll just cancel what I just said. But let's get back to the main point. Boris has gone into hospital. He has been treated by the NHS and he has come out the other side, and he doesn't feel a shred of humanity for these people. These people who have saved his lives are political pawns for him. He hasn't come out and said, we haven't done enough, and I'm going to fight for these people. I don't know what else to say. at what cost would there be for him to say, we made a mistake? I would actually support Boris Johnson in that aspect of his redemption. If he had said, I actually think we've made mistakes and I want to fix that, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I've said terrible things about Boris Johnson for the last 6 months, and I'm not taking those things back. But I do feel that if he had said, we have made a mistake, now is the time for us to fix that mistake, I would say, Boris Johnson, I have a great deal of respect for you. I disagree with your policies, but on this, I agree with you and I support you. And I'll make videos clapping for you if you do that. But he won't. And I don't understand why. It's always, the public need to do more. We're doing everything we can. And the NHS is surviving. So everything is good. Everything is positive. But people are still dying. Anyway. Lepers don't choose their... Yes. Rab was asked to say sorry, but he refused. Really. I believe I have a huge amount of respect for people who say sorry. He can't say he's made a mistake. He's a hubris leader. He has no humility, which is sad. I could understand that if he hadn't gone into hospital. But how can you go through a virus in intensive care and come out the other side and still be untouched by it? Really, is he made of stone? Brenda, welcome to the stream. Don't worry if you're late. We'll probably do another hour. I normally say we'll do another 5 minutes and it goes into an hour. So but welcome to the stream. So we're talking about Boris. I went on a bit of a tirade about Boris, but I want to show you guys some... I should actually respect your comments. So I'm going to go... Oops, I lost the chat for a moment. 1 moment. Okay, bring it back. I should respect the comments that I had promised to respond to. So I'll just respond to these. So I responded to Adams, okay. Glasgow Kiss, I wonder who Glasgow Kiss is. Herd immunity and the government being held to account over it. No. So, herd immunity, so it's been an absolute failure. So, as I've said before, herd immunity will only really work when we have a vaccine. The alternative, of course, is the herd immunity by attrition, where you just allow so much of the population to get infected. And it's very sad to see health experts like the chief medical officer pushing herd immunity, or at least entertaining the idea. Not recently. I think they've changed their tune somewhat, but they were running with it for a number of weeks, and then they turned the ship around in a way, or at least gave the impression that they were doing that. And the government being held to account over it, unfortunately I don't see that happening. There may be a public inquiry 5-10 years from now, and people will have moved on. I can guarantee if there's a public inquiry, most of the people will be, who was Boris Johnson? Was he Prime Minister? Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember the coronavirus. Yeah, I remember staying at home or something like that. Anyway, when is the next episode of Coronation Street out? This is the type of, unfortunately, the type of response that there will be. The public inquiry needs time to collect all of its data, but the unfortunate aspect of that is it would be so disconnected from the events that people will have moved on, people will have forgotten. Many people will say, well, is it really necessary to punish these people? That's the type of response I can guarantee. Maximilian, again, you're talking nonsense. This time about herd immunity. Herd immunity was a good thing. Oh my god! It's a good job you don't see my face because I get very red when I start laughing a lot. Tomorrow's news. Tomorrow's chip. If there be 2-year extension somehow, will it be put in motion of no confidence, and Boris and Keir Starmer in Blackford will be next Prime Minister in 2022. I think it's still too early to talk about elections, seduction, asylum. It's still too early because we're still during this crisis. So I think if there was a general election, it depends on how calendar case. It depends on how the public view Boris Johnson's reaction to this crisis. So it depends on how. I think we need to get out of the crisis to see how people respond to Boris Johnson following that, how their opinion of him, and then I think if it's extremely negative, perhaps the Labour Party could call a vote of no confidence. But Boris Johnson still has the numbers to keep himself there. Justin Trudeau has introduced a long-promised ban on assault weapons. I saw that today. Yes, I saw a snippet of that following the country's worst gun massacre in April. Isn't it amazing that in Pauline, thank you very much. It's I laugh once a week. I laugh quite a bit, but my best laugh is always on a Friday with you guys. Isn't it amazing how in Australia they said, okay, we had a mass shooting, no more guns, and the people went, okay. Canada, we had a mass shooting, no more guns, and the people, okay. In the United States, we had a mass shooting. Can we please think about maybe reducing? No. So, okay. Next question. House called on herd immunity. I don't understand that. Bob Bishop says, House called on herd immunity. Maybe it's a joke. Finland has 5.5 million people, Sweden 10.3 million, with around 1.3 million related to Finnish. In Finland, there is now 218 people dead, and in Sweden, 2,600 dead because of coronavirus. Finland did the lockdown early when Sweden didn't. Now research says that the Finland economy would recover faster than the Swedish. The Sweden only reason is, Now the research says the Finnish economy will recover faster than the Swedish, and the only reason is trust. Finnish understood the government's reasoning and accepted the countermeasures so that they're ready to start again. The article is in Finnish, so you can use Google to translate it. So yeah, it shows a good lockdown is better than no lockdown. But if you're not going to lock down, then you need to go the North Korean, no, not the North Korean way, the South Korean way. In South Korea, I'm just reading Berenda's comment. Max, you got it wrong. In the US, they buy more guns. Exactly. You always need a guy with a gun to defend other people with guns, or to defend against other people with guns. Apologies, I felt that I had to speak for the strangely silent minority who appear not to be with us tonight. Turns out echo chambers aren't entirely a bad thing. Referendum on Scottish independence. Sorry, I respond to this comment. So about Sweden and Finland. So the South Korean model, you don't need to go into a lockdown if you have proper testing in place. And Sweden didn't have proper testing. Sweden said, okay, we're not going to do a lockdown. We're not going to really do anything. And they're suffering the consequences. And Finland has a smaller population, of course, but much, much smaller number of dead because they went into lockdown, and now they're able to get out of the lockdown. So the lockdown has to be done right, but I think it's better an earlier lockdown than a later one. So, for example, in Italy, the lockdown was too late. In the UK, the lockdown is too late. That's why we're seeing such huge numbers. In Ireland, the lockdown was more reasonable, but they were able to handle the crisis better. But then there are many different factors to be considered. For example, Ireland is an island, and Italy is a much different kettle of fish. Is a different kettle of fish when comparing it to, for example, Sweden, Finland, or Ireland, or the UK. But the way going ahead, I think, is to follow the South Korean model. Glasgow said this, Sweden went full COVID, yes. The US, only country with guns care and health control. Yes. I think in Texas, I may be wrong here, but I heard in Texas, some town, it's illegal not to have a gun. Lenny says, very interesting upload today from the YouTube channel Phantom Power titled Scotland Calling Estonia, the first series of programs highlighting how similar independent countries, small independent countries, are coping with the coronavirus pandemic. So question or topic, Max, do you think smaller countries are better able to deal with pandemics? And if yes, is it an argument for independence of Scotland? That's another topic, but is it an acknowledgement such debates are playing politics in this situation? When is it right time to have these debates? So I was talking about this. I think I was talking about this on Discord with the guys in the Discord who are our Patreons, about how Scotland maybe is better suited. You know, if it's a country, they're able to deal with the coronavirus in the way they see fit. But because Scotland gets its marching orders from London, they're not able to do what they want. So if Scotland had been an independent country, but I think it probably would be able to implement policies better than UK-wide. I'm pretty sure about that. Look at Ireland has been able to maintain a reasonably good lockdown on this virus. Iceland, for example, so it's a small island nation. Scotland, of course, isn't an island, but if they were an independent country, they could close the border. And I'm not sure, maybe someone in the chat can correct this if I'm wrong here, but as far as I know, a lot of cases, not all of cases, but a lot of cases are coming from England. So a lot of infection is coming from England. So if they were able to close the border there, it would drastically reduce the number of new infections. Now, correct me if I'm wrong with that, but I read that somewhere. So I think smaller nations are much better suited because they don't have huge populations to manage. It's much easier, and generally smaller countries are richer. Germany and France maybe are an exception. The UK is an exception, but if you see in Europe, a lot of the smaller countries are richer countries. so they have more resources to throw at the problem. Now, to play devil's advocate, of course, if you are a small country, you don't have maybe the ability to buy on the open market PPEs. You don't have the buying power. That's why it's important, if you're a small country, to be part of a larger bloc like the EU. So I think the question cuts both ways in a way, but I do think you're better off if you're in a smaller country. A biological weapon that is no different from the flu. How does that work? Said Rasa. I don't think corona is a biological weapon. We don't know exactly the origin, but as far as I know, it's not a weapon. Swiss men all have to own a gun, all also in reserve army. But Switzerland doesn't have massive mass shootings. Sorry. As far as I know, I think they've had one or two, but nothing on the scale of the United States. Scots grab the chance to close the border now. Does Scotland have a reserve army? Isn't there the Scots Guards? Couldn't they be forced to man the border? No. So there's an image. Okay, I better not open it here, because if I open an image, I'll lose all my. But you guys can look at that. I don't remember what I clicked like, but I don't remember what it is. Okay, oil. So Killer says oil. Do you think we're in the perfect position globally to finally ditch oil and seriously move to renewables? Yes, I do. I think this is a very interesting time. I was reading an article the other day about how we're moving away from oil and other fossil fuels towards renewable resources. We can't rely on fossil fuels coming from other countries. We need to be more energy independent. And relying on fossil fuels from other countries is not the way to go. Especially, if you have to block ports and close airports and things like, not airports, but ports, and there's a risk of supply, then you need to be more energy independent. I think Maximilian was walking on thin ice when it comes to defence and Scotland. Yes. It's best I do some research first. Yes, Trident. No. It's not as if they can't make plastics from other things. Example, hemp, yes. Also corn. Here in Italy, a lot of plastic bags. I don't know if it's the same where you are, but in Italy, when you go to the supermarket, they give you these plastic bags. They're not fantastically strong, but sorry, they are sufficient. They're made from corn, so it's a corn that's converted into a type of plastic, and you can throw it away and it degrades. You can throw it in your compost and it will biodegrade. There's plenty of biofuels that can be utilized in the place of the black stuff, yes, and we've all seen that travel is not a necessity. So do you think oil has run its course, not including the Americans in their thought? Because, well, America. Yeah, I think we're seeing the end of oil now, because demand is going to continue to drop, so it will become unprofitable. So I think governments are starting to realize we need to move to something else. There wasn't a push, now there is a push. You need to watch Planet of the Humans about renewables. So that was the one with what's his name? Michael Moore. But I heard that there were some criticisms about it because he had talked about how electric cars, I haven't seen it, so I shouldn't be criticizing it without seeing it. But as far as I heard, one of the criticisms was that he had said that, well, electric cars take their energy from coal. But that's, if he's making that argument, it has already been debunked, because if a car takes, even if it is the case, an electric car recharges its energy from a coal power station, it's still less polluting than a diesel or petrol car, because the energy transfer is much more efficient with an electric car than a diesel or a petrol car. Because you have to remember, diesel and petrol have to travel a long distance to be burnt inside your car. And when it's burnt inside the car, it produces a huge amount of heat, and it's not energy efficient. While, yes, a power station that burns coal is not good, but it's much less damaging to the environment than a petrol or diesel car. And if the electric car's energy is produced from renewable resources, then you are carbon neutral or carbon negative. But while I'm a fan of electric cars, I think we perhaps need to move in a different direction. We need to move towards better public transportation, but electric-based public transportation. Because there's no point filling up the roads with more with cars that are electric, because it's just we're still going to have traffic jams. There'll be clean traffic jams, but there'll still be traffic jams. It's really good, Max. You should watch it. Okay, I'll check it out. It would be good first step to first move ocean freight to diesel. Currently, they burn crude oil, and their emissions are terrible. Yeah. See, there could be a lot of incentives. See, this is the thing about government. The government have a huge amount of power, and they can do things with the stroke of a pen. I had talked about this with people before. So, for example, a lot of electric cars, the problem with electric cars is that it's difficult to find places to recharge them. Okay. But we never worry about having to fill up our petrol car. Why? Because there is an abundance. Thank you very much, Connor. Did the hamsters ask Tweety Bird to fix your tweet? They asked, but Tweety Bird is self-isolating at the moment. I haven't heard anything back from Twitter. I may try to make another request, but it's been almost a month now, and I haven't been able to get back on Twitter, unfortunately. So thanks for that donation. But about the electric cars, so if you want to put petrol in your car, you can go anywhere. Thanks for that, Veretti. Yes, it's 96% of energy is wasted in heat from diesel or petrol cars. But for example, this is the way the government could really change the game with the stroke of a pen. For example, and I don't know if maybe this is too simple of an idea. That's why it's not working. You could say from the 1st of January, every company that sells petrol who has a license, because you need to have a license to sell petrol at a petrol station, everyone who has a license, in order to have your license renewed, you must have a electric car charging station point or something in your petrol station. Maybe if the petrol station is larger than a particular size or has a certain number of pumps, you can say, okay, I can understand if it's a family driven one that only has one pump or something like that. But if any normal petrol station that has 5, 6, 8 pumps must by law have an electric car charging station. If you don't like it, then you don't have your license renewed, and they will put it in because they have to. It doesn't cost the government 1 penny to do that. It's the law. You want to have a license to sell your diesel or petrol? Okay, but you have to include this. the oil companies may not be happy about that, but tough. That's the way it has to be. You start to work Monday, because I heard the lockdown in Italy will be gone on the 4th of May. I don't know if it's includes the 4th of May. Thank you, Mark Franks. Thank you very much for that kind donation. Calendar propelled cars. Max, the features right in your hands. I'm just trying to picture that. A calendar propelled car. Who propels the calendar? The calendar or the person looking at the calendar? Depends on the calendar, I imagine. The recharging station issue is taking a while to change. But I think it could be something that you can put inside an existing petrol station. Say, from the 1st of January 2021, all petrol stations must include this, or they won't have the license to sell petrol. That's it. Done. Maybe I'm being too simple here. My car runs on Brexit hot air. Goes for miles and miles touring Europe in it. Up until a few years ago, until shale oil was found or developed, it was costing $12.50 a barrel to get 1 barrel of oil from places like the Gulf of Mexico to North Sea, etc. Also need to consider. Scott's dog said. Also need to consider: do we really need to travel as much as we do all the time? And that's actually a point I was just thinking about today. Is I have an old car and my wife has an old car, and we're thinking of we changed one of them a few years ago. It was an old car. We bought another old car. But going ahead, is it necessary to have 2 cars? Probably not. We could probably manage with just one. So I would prefer to get rid of one of those cars because it's not necessary. So I think, as you said, going forward, do we need to have so many cars on the road? This calendar thing is never going away. If Killer hadn't started this shit in the first place. Damn you, Killer. Heat generated from looking at the calendar is converted into electricity, to electrical, and then it's science. Electric bicycle industry is booming. That's great. In the UK government changed the law allowing petrol stations to replace or installing EV in the forecourt. That's good. So they changed, but I think it needs to be mandated, and every petrol station must include this, so that cars in Mankini calendar. Wasn't that? I don't want the calendar put up in car mechanics garages. Okay, take down Mandy and put up Max. The poor workers, they would go on strike. This video, so Anthony C says, this video from Channel 4 should be played in constant rotation when Boris is talking rubbish about the NHS. Consider playing part of it during the live stream. YouTube channel 4, surviving coronavirus after weeks of intensive care. NHS nurse fight to stay alive for their young children. So what I'll do is I'll search for that in a moment. I will go to it, Anthony C. Maybe a little bit later in the live stream. But we'll go ahead. Yes, this. I think also the panorama video I saw the other night, that is something also that should be played constantly. The idea that the NHS didn't have the equipment they needed, or that the equipment they needed had a damn label on it that said best before 2019, and then when you ripped off that label, it said underneath another label that said best before 2016. Bill Gates, Mi Pasa, ID 2020, facts versus conspiracy, please. So Bill Gates has somewhat replaced George Soros as the new hate figure, because Bill Gates is helping in the development of vaccines that are necessary for people living in Africa, in African countries, that are affected by particular viruses. And now he's also talking about providing funding for research into the coronavirus. But I still don't understand. So people are talking about how, and I've seen this on Facebook. Facebook is really the epitome of social media. I don't know if Twitter. I don't think Twitter is as bad, even though I've been suspended from Twitter. But Facebook is just something else, and the idea that because Bill Gates is doing something that, and it's connected with vaccines, that means he's trying to poison the world or something like that. I don't understand where people get these ideas. Is it from Alex Jones, or where do these things start? But I think it probably starts within the anti-vax community. And then as soon as they hear the word vaccine, anyone connected with vaccine, then it's automatically beyond the pale. And the hatred towards Gates is just strange. Now you can look at it critically, and you could say, look, it's not correct that Bill Gates is investing his private money in this research. I honestly believe this should be done by the governments of the world. The governments should be investing in this research. It shouldn't be private individuals. It shouldn't be companies. But that's the way the world works. So in the same way that I don't believe charities should exist, because charities are filling the void where government has failed. Because if a charity exists, it automatically means that a government has failed. If government, if there's a soup kitchen, it means government has failed. Any form of charity, once again, means that the government have failed. Now, unfortunately, we live in the real world, not the world that I would like to live in. And we need charities. We need sometimes people to step in and spend their money on things that they feel that is necessary. I don't believe that Bill Gates is doing this for his own personal gain. Like, what does he gain from it? He is a billionaire. And I think billionaires look at their legacy in two ways. Some of them, like the Koch brothers, wanted to have their names on the sides of museums or art galleries. They would give money to these buildings, and that's their legacy. They see, when I die, people will go to this building 100 years from now and they will see my name up there. And they will wonder, wow, that guy was so great that he helped fund this museum or this art gallery. While other billionaires maybe are saying, look, I would like to create something for the world, or I would like people to remember me as the one who helped eliminate this disease in this country. Billionaires shouldn't exist. I agree, John. Billionaires exist because the system is broken. You can no one has ever become a billionaire because they worked hard. You could technically work hard, save your money, spend it in the right way, avoid certain things and become a millionaire. Invest it in the right way and you could become a millionaire. But you can't become a billionaire by following, how can I say, you can't become a billionaire unless the system allows that or the system facilitates that. In the United States, it's possible to become a billionaire because the system creates that, the system permits that. If you're a billionaire, you don't have to pay the same rates of taxes as ordinary people. You're able to reinvest if you have a lot of money, you can avoid a situation where, how can I explain this? If you have a lot of money, you can buy the right accountants, the right lawyers to help you navigate the system. But if you're a poor person, you can't navigate the system. You have to navigate it with your own canoe, okay, with your own paddle. You don't have someone who can push the system apart or push it out of the way or push it, If imagine the system is like an iceberg. If you have the right ship, you can push the iceberg out of the way. But if you're in a canoe, you have to go around the iceberg. And if you are a millionaire, a multimillionaire, it opens a lot of doors and it facilitates the passage to becoming a billionaire much easier. The biggest growth of billionaires and millionaires in the world being China, and most of them have been linked to green tech, power and recycling. Wow. So they know which way things are going. With the measly 1 million an hour, you can be a billionaire in half a year. Easy peasy. That's all. That's all it takes. If you can go backwards, like Trump, inherit lots of dollars and then systematically fuck everyone up, one step at a time. I've been seeing some channels where the chat is played back. I don't want the embarrassment, but I've missed so many great comments. Can you preserve them in some way? That'd be a lot of work. Because I was thinking of doing a live. Sorry, I was thinking of converting this to a podcast, but the unfortunate aspect of a podcast is it's MP3, and if it's a podcast, all you hear is me speaking and me reacting to your comments, but you don't see the comments. The live stream is probably the only way. What I was thinking of doing is, these live streams are quite long. They're about 3 hours. So I was thinking of perhaps maybe later in the year working at doing more live streams, but much shorter ones. So maybe even 2, 3 or 4 a week. So maybe a 1 hour live stream, 3 or 4 times a week, which could be much more easier to manage. Anyway, okay, Verti says that. Bingo. There's always been a broad scale of which would be considered conspiracy hypothesizing. In other words, for some people, all of these are relevant or true, while for others, maybe only 1 or 2. Of course, if one is true, then why isn't most of them? That's interesting to say. An interesting point. Yes, there are idiots who shout conspiracy on for every situation, but there are also many highly educated and intelligent people who don't miss out on the possibilities. Just because a large majority believe that the mainstream narrative doesn't mean the conspiracy hypothesis was wrong. Even if such a thing as a virus was not pre-planned, engineered, does not mean that there are not people waiting to take advantage. Look at how the mafia have started to take advantage in Italy. The same can be done. Yeah, so I'm not going to read the whole comment, but I get the general idea. Like, for example, if we go back to the bingo, I have talked about the mainstream media a lot. A vote for calendar live. No, live, no. Just reading Wee Scott's dog comment said, Neil Allen, just looking back at your comment regarding snakes, bars, etc., nearly burst my colostomy bag. Oh my god. I hope that wasn't real. But I've talked about the mainstream media. So, yes, these are all conspiracy. But I think it's also important to laugh in a way at ourselves. So I do mention the mainstream media, the BBC, CNN. These are part of the system. The media is part of the system. And I believe that. Now, I could say the mainstream media is a problem, and somebody could shout back at me, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a tinfoil hat idiot. And maybe they're right. But I don't feel... I don't think I'm missing out on something. Now, the problem is with that mentality of mine is that someone else could say 5G, and they would be convinced that they believe that they are right about 5G. And I'm the one who doesn't understand the reality. Regarding the conspiracy theory comment, too much credulity there. The actual conspiracies we will never know about. Speculation is fruitless. I think for conspiracy theories, it mustn't be a block to understanding reality. So, for example, I believe the mainstream media is a problem, but it doesn't mean that everything that comes out of the mainstream media is wrong. So I think this is, I hope, I hope what I'm doing here is right. That I understand that there's a problem, but I'm able to understand also that something coming out of that area is not always wrong, is not always. So what I mean by this is, some people would say, if an anti-vaxxer would say, I'm never going to touch any vaccine and all vaccines are bad. Okay, but I could sympathize somewhat with somebody who said, look, I'm a bit worried about a new vaccine. Sorry, my chair dropped down. I need a new chair. So I could sympathize with somebody who said, look, I'm a bit worried about a new vaccine coming out. Is it tested? Is it safe? Is there a risk for maybe people who are pregnant, or is there a risk to the elderly if they get this vaccine, or your children, or whatever? Is it a good idea to have a vaccine when you're ill already? Excuse me. So I can understand if somebody was a bit worried about using a vaccine because they had some concerns. But I don't have time for people who say all vaccines are bad, all vaccines are an attempt to control the population, all vaccines were invented in a lab to reduce the population, or something like this. So the same with Big Pharma. So some people say Big Pharma is okay. Are there do we have concerns with the influence pharmaceutical companies have on the government? I think there is a legitimate concern there, because these are companies who give huge amounts of money to politicians in order to get favors. But I wouldn't stop at Big Pharma. There's also Big Oil. There are many companies and billionaires who give money to politicians for political favors. So I understand this meme is a joke, but some parts are more legitimate than others, but then maybe by saying that, I'm falling into the trap of being a tinfoil hat merchant. Max, think of us as an antipodes with your live stream timing if you're thinking of changing them. Yeah, no, if I change the live streams, I will let you know. But just putting out some feelers on perhaps some changes. But I may run it through the community page if I decide to change something. Stop clock is correct twice a day. Yeah, so conspiracy theories are occasionally right, but consider cost of measles, polio, and I always point to polio and smallpox as examples of, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to look at things as, okay, Max, I'm concerned about a vaccine from a guy who can't get rid of a computer virus. I understand that, but they're two different things. He's not responsible for Windows. So the Microsoft is a huge corporation that produce software, and their attempts to develop a system that's different from Unix. Unix was a much better system. Unix is a much better system. Ubuntu, Apple, I think, is based on Unix. They wanted to go in a different direction, and it was a bad call. It was more successful commercially, but I think Windows is a terrible system compared to others. But we are forced to use it. But I don't see how someone who has amassed a huge amount of wealth, he's not in the laboratory deciding, okay, you should put this protein in here with this other protein. He's funding the research. It's not him doing the research. It's other people doing the research. He's not a scientist. So I don't think it's valid to say that if Bill Gates is involved, he's the wrong person to be involved. OS X and Android will borrow from Linux. I use a Mac, but I think Mac is based on Unix, as far as I know, which is a better system than Windows. I'm not defending. So what, as far as I know, what Gates is doing is he is saying, look, I believe we should research a vaccine for this. I'm going to give my money towards that, and that's I think that's an admirable position to take. There you go off on the Unix conspiracy. Damn you, Mike. This bingo card reads like Trump press conferences yesterday. He covered almost every topic on the card. He's daily ranting and panting at the media shtick as he burns America to the ground. Yes, Kenny is right. And then the last one, usually there isn't smoke without fire. So yes, the word conspiracy theory has been socially engineered. The idea that Ministry of Truth doesn't exist is for idiots, as it's obvious nowadays. It's the whole idea of a conspiracy theory is very interesting. Max, you take the vaccine when it comes out and tell me how it goes. I probably will, because I maybe it's a bad idea to take the vaccine, but I assume that it will be tested and it will pass the necessary requirements to be mandated by the state. Maybe I'll grow an extra arm or leg, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. But I think we have to balance, okay, is it better to risk getting the coronavirus. But I think there's also another problem. There is a possibility that if we have a vaccine, then we will be able to return to some sort of normality. Now, it could be said that people who refuse to take the vaccine may not be able to return to the same normality. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, if there's a risk that some people may continue to spread the virus because they have refused to take the vaccine, that could be a cost they have to pay for that type of freedom. They have to give up one freedom for another freedom. Because if the government say you're not allowed to go out of your house unless you have the vaccine, then what do? I'm not saying they would do that, but they could say that. They could say you're not allowed to be around other people if you don't have the vaccine. So in this way, you would say, well, they're infringing on my rights, but your right is to take the vaccine, or your right is to stay at home. This is the problem with rights, is that we don't have any rights. We have privileges, and the government will decide whether you have rights or not. Not even rights, as I said, privileges. The government says you can do this or you can do that. We don't have any rights. This is the idea that people think we have rights. Unfortunately, we don't. Because if a right can be taken away at any time, then it's not a right. It's a temporarily privileged state that you're in. Anyway, so I want to go on to something else here before we're almost on 3 hours. So I've talked much longer than I had expected. I just want to read a short part of this article. Just bear with me a moment. I'll change the screen. So it says here, revealed, NHS procurement official privately selling PPE amid COVID-19 outbreak. So NHS launches inquiry into Guardian investigation exposes senior official trading protective gear amid pandemic. The head of procurement for the NHS has set up a business. Doesn't this sound familiar? Like in the United States. Set up a business to profit from the private sale of large quantities of personal protective equipment, PPE, in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak. An undercover investigation by the Guardian can reveal. David Singleton is a fantastic surname, 42, a senior NHS official in London, has been working at the capital's COVID-19 Nightingale Hospital, coincidence, launching the business 2 weeks ago to trade in visors, masks and gowns. Asked about the findings of the investigation, Singleton said he disclosed his business to superiors in the NHS in accordance with the rules and was told that there was unlikely to be a conflict. So how is it possible that someone who is a senior procurement official is able to set up a business selling PPEs? All those PPEs fell off the back of Hillary. Maybe he should be called Del Boy instead. Oh, I'm sure he was non-profit, yes. Asked about the findings, however, the NHS launched an immediate investigation. We take any potential conflicts of interest extremely seriously. So you've given him permission and now you're starting an investigation. Okay. Extremely seriously, and as soon as we become aware of those allegations of an internal investigation is started, a spokesperson said. A website for Singleton's company, SureStock, which marketed PPE to private sector and NHS clients, made no reference to Singleton or his role in the health service, but in a phone call to an undercover reporter posing as a potential client, Singleton confirmed he was running the business and said he was trading as a sales agent between suppliers and buyers of PPE. Disaster capitalists, disgusting bastards, yes. So somebody working in the NHS sees, look, the other departments or other parts of the country need this equipment. I'm buying it. Why don't I, make a profit on the side? Does he have any organs or babies for sale? Yes. According to Singleton's LinkedIn profile, which he deleted shortly after the Guardian told him about its investigation, he is a head of procurement. Sorry, he is a head of procurement for the NHS in London. He works with a large commissioning support unit, CSU, that covers the capital's north and east and surrounding areas. It is understood the investigation is being conducted by his employer, the NHS North and East London CSU. I'm not sure if QA Library has read this, but I think he'd be quite interested in this report. During the conversation with the undercover reporter, Singleton said he was currently an NHS employee, but he said his role did not involve buying any products. I deliver services, he said. So none of the suppliers that I'm working with do I have any interactions with during my day job. Sorry, they're turning the frogs. It should have been made illegal to sell a mask for a price over £3 or so, and prosecute anyone selling for £3.50. Yeah, it's how is it possible you could go into a supermarket and buy masks for like £10 or £25 or something like that? I've seen shocking profiting during the virus loo roll, going from £10, masks and gloves going for £50. And you could sort of understand it if it was somebody on the street trying to sell you this stuff, or someone trying to flog something on eBay. But also in supermarkets, you see how prices have doubled. These are things that we look at happening. We see these things happening, this sort of explosive... have I heard my name taken in vain? I think I posted the link on this. Okay, sorry. You are a fountain of information, and unfortunately I only see some droplets from time to time. Not your fault, my fault, because I'm not always on Discord. But it's an interesting story, to say the least. But it sounds similar to one that I did a video on, where in the United States, where there was a campaign manager for a politician decided, I can make some money on the side selling PPE. He should be named and shamed. Asked later whether he was exploiting his NHS expertise and contacts, Singleton said in a statement that he was not directly involved in responding to PPE shortage in the NHS, as my role does not include purchasing or procuring of these products. However, information collated by The Guardian, including internal NHS email evidence, suggests Singleton may have been involved in procuring PPE supplies. Asked to respond to a request for comment about the email evidence, Singleton replied, "No comment," and hung up the phone. You know that when you say, take it back, Max, QA Library is like a literal library. Yes, he is. I'm admitting 2 streams at once. You're like a machine. Before I get, thanks, Max. Thanks, Korolev, the movie. Hope you're well. Stay safe. Boris will probably give a night out for services. Probably. It's the Jimmy Savile was a services rendered award. Jimmy Savile seal of approval award or something like that. Is the best model through which to understand Western right-wing populism now that it's a cult? I think so. Look at how the populists are selling people down the river. They've convinced people to vote against their own interests. They've turned they have turned convincing people that their enemy is the poor person living next to them, the single mother, the immigrant. They've turned that into an art form. The idea that those people are your enemies, not the people who are running the large corporations, the large companies, the ones who are outsourcing the jobs, the ones who are deciding not to, the ones in this crisis who are deciding that you have to go to work because they need to increase their profit margin. Those people are not the enemy. No, the enemy is the poor person, the single mother, the immigrant, the person who's relying on the social safety net. But just this whole thing on here's the picture. The website offered large amounts of PPE and hygiene products for sale, including protective face shields or smart visors. Don't know why they're called smart, which are priced at £19,500 for a minimum order of 10,000 units. Wow. So, really, 19,500 of these masks. Sorry, 10,000 masks for £19,000. So, was it £19? Is it correct? £19,000 a mask, which is just a piece of plastic that costs, I think, 50p to make. There was a company in the UK saying it cost about 50p to make them. So there's, what's the markup of from 50p up to £19? I'm not very good at mathematics, as you know. The support for Trump, Johnson, Farage, etc. is prioritizing above the people who are being killed. Maintaining the person at the top is the most important. Yeah. The one at the top, £1.95 a mask. Thank you very, very much, Mark. So they cost 50p to make. So it's 3 times the margin, no? 4 times the margin, sorry. 4 times a margin. I think the old tennis player in the skirt looking over her shoulder. Sorry, I don't understand that comment. Posing as an agent at a meat processing factory, a Guardian reporter approached Shorestock claiming his client urgently needed large quantities of PPE to protect about 800 workers and returned the facility to full production. Shorestock's salesman, a friend and associate of Singleton, confirmed the company had been created by Singleton and said he could help source batches of 20,000 visors, masks and gowns and gloves, as well as 1,000 litres of hand sanitizer, all part of initial order. The sale would have totaled more than £100,000. So there's this is like the type of marketeering that profiteering, sorry, that went on during the Second World War. You need some chocolate. I can get you some chocolate. You need a helmet to protect you while the blitz is taking place. Don't worry, I can get you a helmet. Yeah, but aren't helmets for soldiers? No, I can get you something. There is another article I wanted to show you. So during the coronavirus, there are many different groups who suffer greatly during this crisis, and of course some will be forgotten about. So it says here, calls for health funding to be prioritized as poor bear brunt of COVID-19. Just move it over. So I'll just go back to some of your comments for a moment. People with a 3D printer could do it cheaper. Yes, much cheaper than £2. He shoots, he hits the post. Damn. I would just walk around in a Power Ranger helmet. Problem solved. Made a face shield out of a 2-liter soft drink bottle. Is pretty good. And in World War One, smart visor. They're £1 for 10. Or when you use an ankle grinder. Yeah. Woo-one, well, thank you so much for that kind donation. 1-1, sorry, 1-1. Thank you so much. So it says here, the government must prioritize health funding for the most deprived nations in the aftermath of the coronavirus crisis. Politicians and public health experts have demanded. Yes, like, do people really believe that the Tories will decide, yes, now is the time to support the poor? Send in Mike Pence is cheaper. Mike Pence is a human shield. After new data analysis revealed the devastating scale of the death toll of the poorest parts of England and Wales. In findings, one expert highlighted the fact that COVID-19 is not a leveler, as politicians have repeatedly claimed. The official for national statistics said that those living in the poorest parts of England and Wales are dying at twice the rate of those in the richest areas. Yes, because people who are living in poor areas don't have access to the same health support as those in richer areas. People who are generally poor don't have the possibility to self-isolate or to stay at home. Many of them are essential workers, for example, delivery drivers or people working in factories, so they don't have the possibility to stay at home, while people living in richer areas do have that possibility. QA Library says the Irish government is easing the lockdown restrictions. People who are over 70 can leave their homes as long as they avoid contact with others. 2-kilometer exercise limit will be extended to 5. That's good, because my own dad is 80 this month actually, and he's been hoping to get out. So I'm still a bit cautious about him moving around. But people over can leave their homes, so that's good that they can leave their homes. Some of those poor people helped Boris, definitely. This is the worst thing about this, is many people can complain about Boris and say, look, I didn't vote for him. But some of these people voted for Boris. This is what really dumbfounded me, during the election. The people who were poor people. I understood the problems with Jeremy Corbyn. I understood the problems with the Labour Party. I understood the issue of Brexit. Okay, but I really didn't understand how someone would say, "I'm going to vote for Boris." I could understand someone staying at home and say, "Look, I hate the Tories and Jeremy Corbyn is shite." Sorry, Jeremy. And saying, "Look, I'm going to stay at home and not going to vote." I can understand that. But I don't understand poor people, say, "I'm going to vote for Boris Johnson because he'll get Brexit done. And once we leave the European Union, it's the sunlit uplands. And everyone will be working again, and everyone will be driving around in a Rolls Royce." Jean, thank you very much. Thanks, Max. Thanks for... What did I do? Thanks to you for that kind donation. And I love your cat on the logo. But if you have a question, please post it in the comments. Glasgow Kiss, don't you have to wear face masks as well? Don't you know that Glasgow Kiss just pulls up his kilt? He uses it as a mask. Okay, no, I won't say anymore. It's shocking that a 100-year-old pensioner has done more for the NHS than the likes of Farage. Farage has done nothing for the NHS, so anyone doing anything would be more than what Farage is doing. But Farage, the great patriot, and you have this old man, and it's not a cat, it's a mini panther. Good point. Yay, La Subscription Commission has subscribed to the channel. Here is a must for the live. Yes, please do. So I'm going to end the live stream in a few minutes, but I just want to show you Farage. Yes, I hate Farage, as you can imagine. There is a part here I want to... So somebody asked about a video. We can watch part of that video now. So let me just scroll down. Channel 4 News. Sorry, somebody had posted a comment about a video on... I don't remember where it was. So if somebody can post it again, some of you guys had suggested watching a video from Channel 4 News. I think it may have been... Max is a real techie. No, I'm terrible. It was a video from Channel 4 News about people suffering in the lockdown or the NHS. If you can tell me the name of it again, please do, because I'd like to show it now. I hate Farage, and so does his wife and my dog, and my wife and and my dog. Farage is just so... He's so fake. But then people still somehow believe that he's a man of the people. And I've had arguments, of course, with Brexiteers about this. How Farage is just a charlatan. He's out for himself. You know, even when Brexit was over and done with, he was still attempting to remain relevant in some way. But no, if where is that video? There was a video about from Channel 4. Let me see if I can. Maybe it's sometime recently. Oh, I can't find it, unfortunately. Oh, damn it. So I promised to show you a video, but need more information. Got the possibility of 4 videos. Somebody in the comment section had said there was a video to see from Channel 4 that should be repeated. Maybe it was in the other channel. Where is it? The comments under my videos. Just one moment, guys. No, that's not it. Here it is. Yes, surviving coronavirus in intensive care. It was Anthony C that had actually recommended it, so I'll just put it in here. Just a moment. So we can watch some of this and then I can comment on it. Thank you for your patience, as always, is greatly appreciated.
Ogni 1,23 secondi un nuovo utente va su wix.com e inizia a creare il proprio sito professionale. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna get your chair.
Okay, so surviving coronavirus after weeks of intensive care. Just before we go to that, just answer some of your comments. Did you see Nicola Sturgeon's reaction to? No, but I heard that she's a fan of these videos, so maybe we can have a look at that. I think it's Sir Antonius, and he's gone. Okay, he's gone. But I think this is the video he was talking about. I think this is it, so we can watch it now.
Yeah. Natasha Jenkins is finally home. 22 days on a ventilator, just able to walk, and now overwhelmed by the sight of her children.
Get in the house first.
Among so many their age, caught up in the bewildering cruelties of this pandemic. Just tell me about that moment coming back into the house.
I was like, I just need to get hold of them. I just want to grab him, I want to kiss him. And that's what I said to the doctors. I need to get home. I need to see my family. I'll heal better and I'll recuperate better with my children around me. And I believe that's what's helping me.
I can imagine, you've seen so many people die, you've heard about so many people dying, and then you've gone through that, and you're probably expecting not to be able to say goodbye to your children and to your family. So like so many people, and I've heard stories about people who were saying goodbye to loved ones over FaceTime or on some video app or something like that. It's, like saying goodbye to loved ones on a video app. It's heartbreaking. And then other people who didn't actually have that possibility, she's a nurse too. No, I didn't see that. So she knows. So she has what the price she has paid. How did she get infected? Was it just a natural response, a natural infection, if there's such a thing, or was it because she didn't have the right equipment, and it was through the neglect on behalf of the government?
And now they watch, 3 days on, as this 35-year-old student nurse from Barry wants others to know how this virus has changed her life. The tracheotomy scar still healing.
Obviously I've had it taken out now. My voice doesn't normally sound like this. The last thing I remember is...
So Jamie says she may have long-term health problems after. And that's true. A lot of people have... the recovery rate from incubation is low. She's lucky, yeah. Intubulation, is low. So, and the health, there are reports of people with heart problems and kidney problems and other organ issues because it's so intrusive, invasive. This and the government would offer them £60,000 if she had died.
Messaging my family saying I'm positive for corona is the last thing I remember.
She woke up 3 weeks later in intensive care.
I was having crazy hallucinations. Crazy, like I woke up thinking, oh, my family had died. It was horrendous.
Veretti says it's annoying that you can't get tested. I'm 55% sure that I've had it. I have no idea I could have spread the virus. That's the thing I've been talking about. Not just the idea that people who have symptoms should get tested, but also people who haven't had symptoms but are or had minor symptoms should be tested. As many people as possible. Anyone who feels, look, I have a doubt, should be tested. I understand maybe there aren't enough tests for that, but there needs to be some sort of mechanism. Thanks, Glasgow. I'll put that video on after this, so we can end on a light note.
The only way I can describe it is I was locked in my body because I could hear everything going on around me. But then a couple of days later, I was just in floods of tears, couldn't stop crying. The thought that I'd leaving my children behind, and it was frightening. It was really scary.
30 miles away in Merthyr Tydfil, Jeff Cope, who's 60, watched by his wife Suzanne, is another beginning a long recovery.
So, Verity, you had mild symptoms. Where are you? Are you in the UK? I don't remember. Or are you in Finland? I don't remember where you are.
My lung capacity is significantly reduced, so even walking up the stairs at home makes that an effort.
A fortnight ago, Jeff became the first COVID-19 patient to be discharged from intensive care at the Prince Charles Hospital, reunited with his wedding ring as he left and his family 5 days later.
What emotions were you experiencing then?
Sorry, I pray you don't have it. Yeah, I hope you don't have it. But I think if enough time has passed, you shouldn't have it. You should be clear. They wouldn't test us. They were NHS staff only. And they were short of the tests. Everyone should act as if they have it. Yes, that's why I have a little bit of a cough I've had for a while, but I don't think I have it. But I still walk around with a mask on, and I've been doing this for a month. This is like 30-second long feel-good video from Dublin, if you can, Max. Okay, I will.
You saw your family?
Relief.
William says, you said in a video the other day that spare NHS testing capacity doesn't exist. If it does, but it's a failure of the government. in allocating resources if tests exist and aren't accessible. Yes, it is a failure of the government. If there is capacity and they don't provide the means to use that capacity, then it's a failure of the government. It's like if I say there are doctors available, but I won't let you into the room to access the doctors, then I'm not providing those doctors truly available to you. Those symptoms were weird, but they went away. But I think it's still important to get tested. Also for the fact that if they went away by themselves, you could have had it, but you now could have antibodies for it, which would be important to know. Because from a non-medical point of view, you could perhaps, get a certificate or something. You could be tested to show that you have antibodies and that you are protected from it. And you could be given a certificate that would allow you to travel, to allow you to get back to work. I think that could be something. Thanks for your vote. No excuses why we laugh at you is a very good point.
A sense of guilt that I put them through all that. But I also believe it's made us closer, brought us closer together. Because we really do now appreciate
the great enemy of writing.
But the other bit of emotion was linked to the staff on Ward 3. They were absolutely brilliant as a team.
Natasha too has an abundance of gratitude for Cardiff's University Hospital of Wales, where she was treated. Extensive physio now the priority. At 35, she'd never imagined the virus could cause someone like her so much damage.
What does the future hold for you and your nursing career?
I want to go back to nursing. I'm scared at the moment. I think psychologically I've got a bit of damage. I'm hoping I can get some counselling, get some help. I want to give back. I'd love to work on ITU and help others.
So it's great that this woman is able to, and she's looking to get back into nursing again. You could understand if she had said, look, I have done my time in hell. I want to move on to do something different. I applaud her for her courage in going through that. I can't even imagine how physically and emotionally damaging it is. The trauma physically and the trauma mentally of going through that, and then having the guts to say, I want to get back into that. I want to get back and help people. So we're almost at the end of the stream. So I promised this is from Dublin. We also have to see. Let me see. The Janie one. Sorry, let me find. Just a moment. Come on, you hamsters. I'll just change the video so we have we end on a light note.
I have seen them. Yeah, I'm not sure I've seen.
So this is Nicola.
I have seen them. Yeah,
Sorry, Nicola Sturgeon responding to some of the comedy videos where a Scottish comedian imitates her voice for comedy, for our comedy pleasure.
I'm not sure I've seen every single one of them, but I do stumble across them on social media sometimes, and they are. Yeah, Janie Godley is a brilliant comedian in my view, and her voiceovers are very, very funny. They're very rude in terms of the language they use, so sometimes I don't feel able to retweet them. But they're very, very funny. But the really clever thing she's doing with them right now is making people laugh. But she's also, if you listen to them carefully, she's getting the key messages across very, very powerfully. And so, you know, if humour helps us to make people understand what they should be doing right now, then all well and good. So I think she's doing a really good job on that front. Not just now, but she's been doing these voiceovers for quite a while. And let me just say, not all the time, but occasionally I watch them and I think, yeah, she must have an insight into what I was really thinking at that point, but I wasn't able to see it. And she manages to voice it in her particular style.
That's very nice. So I do recommend checking out Janie Goodley's web channel. I'm not subscribed, so I should subscribe. 15,000 subscribers. That's all. She should have a lot more than that. So it's been. So I'll just end on that. I do recommend checking out those very funny videos from. She makes fun of the Scottish politicians and but in a nice way, but also of Boris Johnson and the others as well. So it's been a great live stream. Thanks to everyone for all of your comments, to your donations, for your super chats. Once again, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait for the next one. So if all is running smoothly and the hamsters are not not protesting, we should have another live stream next Tuesday. So guys, have a great weekend and stay safe. Remember, wear your mask, wear your gloves, and remember social distancing. So have a great night, guys. See you soon. Stay